Chapter 390. This is, Fang Cheng's face turned pale as the spiritual light around him shone brightly. However, just as he took a step forward and was about to dash into the distance, another buzzing sound came from behind him. A golden dragon shadow rushed out from the underground mountain. The two dragons surrounded him, and he had nowhere to run. "You're courting death." Fang Cheng was a third-grade god emperor who had experienced countless fierce battles. Although he was surprised, he did not panic at all. Two divine seals instantly condensed in his hands, releasing a dazzling radiance. Shatter! The divine seals slammed down from the sky and grew to a size of 1,000 feet, almost covering the entire space. Dao voices echoed from the 9 heavens. It was as if a god had descended from the heavens behind Fang Cheng. The two seals and the two dragons collided in the sky. In just an instant the entire world collapsed. The mountains within 1,000 miles were shattered and the lakes dried up. Dazzling spiritual light shone from the sky as if it was the end of the world. However, just as the spiritual light in the sky was extinguished, a demonic shadow suddenly appeared in the sky. The black blade in his hand slashed down with an aura that could destroy eternity. 8 cries rang out from the blade, shaking the clouds. Fang Cheng's expression changed drastically. The spiritual light around him turned into an armor, and there were divine runes gathering around him. A huge square seal spun out from his hand, tearing the space apart as it flew toward the black blade. Clang! The sound of metal clashing echoed for thousands of miles. At that moment, the entire realm trembled for an instant. Ling Zhao's figure appeared and stood proudly in the sky. A demonic shadow that was several feet tall followed behind him. Fang Cheng, who was not far away from him, looked gloomy and shocked. Especially when he saw the demonic aura emanating from Ling Zhao's body, a terrifying chill appeared in the depths of his eyes. "You're the Sky Demon. 300 years ago, a great demon descended in the Xingzhou and massacred everyone. Back then, Fang Cheng's cultivation had not reached the Arch realm, but he had heard of how terrifying that demon was. But he really didn't expect that 300 years later, he would actually see this great ancient devil again. Looks like there's still a gap between me and a god emperor." Ling Xiao raised his head and looked at the 2 dragon vein phantoms that had reappeared in the world. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. 2 dragon veins could withstand a strike from a third-grade divine emperor. If the 9 meridians converged, Fang Cheng would most likely be severely injured or even killed. Right now, this world had yet to develop the power of heaven and earth. However, the strength of the 9-dragon heaven-imprisoning formation couldn't be underestimated. This was like Ling Xiao had set up a peerless killing formation in advance. Once he fought someone, he didn't need to waste any time at all. He only needed to trap the enemy within his realm, and he could kill the enemy. Who would have thought that another sky demon would appear in the Xingzhou continent? "Fine, before you grow up, I'll kill this demon for the sake of the world," Fang Cheng sneered. He could sense that Ling Xiao was only a divine general. Even so, the young man's methods still made him tremble in fear. Could a divine general fight against a god emperor? Once he stepped into the emperor realm, no one in the Xingzhou would be his match. Furthermore, until now, Fang Cheng had never heard of a demon massacring the Xingzhou continent. This time, the inheritor of the forbidden physique was much more cautious. But so what? A mere divine general dared to target a god emperor? He was courting death. "In my world, I'm not the demon. You are." Ling Xiao smiled faintly and waved his hand. Just as Fang Cheng's eyes were filled with disdain, the sound of wind breaking could be heard. Then, to his despair, he saw several figures descend from the sky and surround him. The 2 leaders were god emperors whose auras weren't any weaker than his. "Capture him." Ling Zhao's lips curled up, but his expression didn't change. "I'm a villain. Do you expect me to fight you fairly? Is that even possible? You don't have any morals. You're bullying me with numbers. You dare to fight me fairly? Fang Qing swallowed hard, but Ling Xiao didn't even look at him. In a flash, he disappeared from where he was. Boom! There was a loud explosion in the realm. Ripples of spirit energy rolled out like waves in the sea. In front of the Sky Palace, Yi Qingchan looked at the young man in front of her with her bright eyes. Young master, you're back? Yes. How's Ning Er? Ling Xiao took Yi Qingchan in his arms and smiled. She's been cultivating with folded shadow all day. I haven't seen her for a long time. Yi Qingchan lay in Ling Xiao's arms. Young master, when are you going to take me out to play? I'm bored to death here. Bear with it for a while longer. It's chaotic outside. After I clean up the mess here, I'll take you to the other empires. Ling Xiao smiled gently, but there was a hint of contemplation in his eyes. Calculating the time, the first prince of the great Xia dynasty, Xia Feng, should be back soon. He just didn't know if this leak had Jiang Yuxiang. Boom! Ling Xiao looked up when a figure flew over from the horizon. He saw Fang Qing in Xing Shen's hands and thrown to the ground like a dead dog. Master! Yes. You've worked hard. Ling Xiao walked to Fang Qing, his eyes flickering. The God Emperor of the Great Qi dynasty didn't react at all, or rather, he couldn't defend himself. His divine soul was taken out of his body. Ling Xiao clenched his fist and slashed out with the primordial demon blade. It instantly devoured the God Emperor's flesh and blood, turning him into dust. Buzz! The Soul Palace rose by a few dozen feet. Ling Xiao's divine soul had entered the third stage of the God Emperor realm. Yi Qingchan didn't say a word from the beginning to the end. She just watched quietly. There was a hint of icy blue flickering in her beautiful eyes, which turned into calmness. Qingchan, don't worry and cultivate here. I'll come back to accompany you when I have time. Ling Xiao reached out and pinched the girl's face before disappearing again. Did you see that? Did you see that? What did I say? He's a demon, a great demon. You still want to stay by his side? Aren't you afraid that he'll kill you one day? Yi Qingchan gazed into the distant sky with a cold expression on her face. In her soul sea, the ancient soul roared furiously with a hint of fear in its voice. If he kills me, Yi Qingchan suddenly smiled, and there was a touch of moving radiance on her beautiful face. Then, I must have a reason to die. You! Ridiculous! The ancient soul was stunned for a long time before it screamed. You're a member of the Foliaceae. How can you walk together with a demon? If the elders in the family know about this, you won't be the only one who will die. Foliaceae? I don't care. As long as it's his woman, I can kill anyone in this world. Yi Qingchan shook her head and smiled. She turned and walked towards the Sky Palace. Since I'm willing to give my love to someone, I should be generous for the rest of my life. Great Xia Relay Station. Great Qi Palace. Qi Deqiang stood in front of Xia Yanran with a dark smile, one of his hands grabbing the latter's robe tightly. He had heard the commotion outside. River Yu calling him grandpa made him feel an indescribable pleasure. This coward even called him grandpa. Princess Yanran, you're a descendant of Emperor Xia after all. How can you bear to live in the same palace as such a trash? Qi Deqiang pulled ruthlessly, directly tearing Xia Yanran's outer robe apart, revealing her snow-white skin. At this time, Xia Yanran's face was pale and filled with despair. For a moment, she hoped that River Yu could rush in and stop Qi Deqiang. But in the end, trash was trash. Even if he was filled with anger and was slightly impulsive, but with a slight knock, he would immediately give up. Forget it. If she never had any expectations, why would she be disappointed? Chapter 391. Xia Yanran slowly closed her eyes, feeling the ugly face that was getting closer and closer to her. Tears seemed to fall from the corner of her eyes. Hee, Princess Yanran, do you want me to invite your husband into the main hall now and admire him from the side? Qi Deqiang's eyes were dark and there was an indescribable excitement in his heart. Weren't you pure and focused on the Tao? Why did you look like you were ready to be picked by me now? Xia Yanran bit her red lips tightly, remaining silent. She knew that Qi Deqiang was humiliating her on purpose. But so what? In the end, she had no way to fight back. Although River Yu was outside the hall, he had probably been slapped unconscious by Qi Deqiang's protector, right? Boom! At this moment, the door of the main hall was suddenly broken open by a strong force. A thin and tall figure slowly walked in. His body seemed to be surrounded by black flames, looking indescribably eerie. Qi Deqiang and Xia Yanran froze at the same time. When they turned back, River Yu's figure was already in front of them. You. Why the F***ck did you come in? I haven't invited you yet. Especially Qi Deqiang. His pants that were half taken off were pulled up again. F***ck. I just had some feeling, but now I'm scared back by you. Alright. Since you want to see it, I'll let you see it with your own eyes. Yanran, come here. River Yu took a deep breath, his voice filled with determination. River Yu, what are you doing here? Don't you think I've embarrassed myself enough? Xia Yanran walked to River Yu's side, waving her hand to slap him. But this time, she did not manage to slap the young man's face. River Feather grabbed her hand and with a gentle tug, he instantly pulled her to his side. And before Xia Yanran could even react, her body had already fallen into River Yu's arms. From today onwards, no one in this world will be able to force you. Wah! What? To be honest, Xia Yanran was stunned. Especially when she felt the terrifying heat in River Feather's arms, the confusion in her beautiful eyes gradually dissipated. Spiritual energy? Your realm? You're a divine general? Exclamations filled the hall. Xia Yanran covered her red lips with one hand, her eyes wide open. How was that possible? How could he be a divine general? In the entire Great Xia, apart from her first royal brother who was obsessed with the immortal Tao, the strongest prodigy in the entire Longyan city was only at the late stage of Paoang. It was very sudden. For the first time in her life, Xia Yanran felt a sense of security from this husband. Could it be that he really had a great background? You. River Feather, you dare to spoil this prince's plans? Are you tired of living? Qi Deqiang's expression was gloomy as killing intent swirled in his eyes. So what if he was a divine general? After all, this River Feather had no background at all. Yet, he actually dared to oppose him. Spoil your plans? You dare to snatch my wife? Today, I will destroy your body and soul. River Feather's face was ice cold, and his temperament instantly sublimated. Even for Xia Yanran, looking at the handsome face so close to her, she could not help but have an illusion. Was this still her good-for-nothing husband? Why was she unable to recognize him all of a sudden? And this emperor? Who exactly was he? Ling Xiao stood outside the hall, looking at the discarded son-in-law who was acting so well, and a smile appeared on his lips. That's right, it should be like this. If he wanted to completely harvest this leek, he had to start with Xia Yanran. After all, every good abandoned son-in-law's character was loyal and infatuated. In other words, women were their weakness. And what Ling Xiao wanted to do was to give River Feather a chance to show off a little in front of Xia Yanran. If such a beauty was moved, the adopted son-in-law would naturally be even more loyal. Then, he would think of a way to extinguish the hope in Xia Yanran's heart. He would even make her misunderstand River Feather, the kind that could not be explained, and break the heart of our adopted son-in-law, making him feel that the world was not worth it. At that time, we would probably be able to fulfill his wish and send him away from the world. TSK, I, Ling Xiao, am the light of the righteous path, helping people fulfill their wishes. Those who recite my true name, I will send you into reincarnation. What did you say? River Feather, you're crazy. A trace of fear flashed past Qi Deqiang's eyes. At this time, he naturally felt the terrifying spiritual power surging from this discarded son-in-law of Great Xia. Divine General realm. How was that possible? One had to know that he, the second prince of Great Qi, was only in the middle stage of Paoang. If this river feather attacked him, he would definitely die today. I am the second prince of Great Qi. If you dare to kill me, Great Qi will definitely not let you go. It might even lead to a war between the two dynasties. Villains, before they died, they would ask who their father was and threaten them a little. It was harmless, and they would still die if they wanted to die. But when these words fell into River Feather's ears, the smile on his face became wider. A war between the two dynasties? If Great Qi wants to fight, I will accompany you. But not 2 dynasties, but 3 dynasties. What? Who are you? Finally, a trace of uneasiness appeared in Qi Diqiang's heart. Where did Elder Fong go? He was a 3rd-grade divine emperor. Why didn't he appear now? Even just now, he did not feel too strong of a fluctuation. But who would be able to kill a 3rd-grade divine emperor without anyone noticing? Could it be that this River Feather really had a great background? River Feather, why don't we forget it? If we kill him, Great Xia will be in trouble. Xia Yanran's voice was inexplicably gentle. That Supreme Lord was very nice, but he was too far away from her. On the other hand, it was River Feather who had been loyal to her for the past 3 years without complaint. Now that he had displayed heaven-defying talent, if he had a little bit of background, he would be a good son-in-law. I am not greedy for his background. It's just that I have been moved by his true feelings in the past 3 years. What are you laughing at? Annoying. She had said from the very beginning that even a dog would have feelings. Yanran, I have said that from today onwards, no one in Xingzhou can bully you. River Feather laughed coldly and walked towards Qi Diqiang. Guards! Guards! Someone wants to kill me! Someone come quickly! Qi Diqiang cried out in despair. Immediately, great Xia guards rushed in from outside the hall. How dare you? Who is causing trouble in my relay station? HM? 5th Princess? Prince Consort. The newcomer was clad in armor and was also a divine general. He was a member of the Imperial Guard stationed here. What do you want to do? He had naturally seen River Feather's actions just now. Although he did not know where the great Qi God Emperor had gone, it was obvious that he could not let Qi Diqiang die in the relay station. Otherwise, if the Emperor were to blame them, they would not be able to escape death. It is useless no matter who comes today. Qi Diqiang must die. This Emperor has said it. Devil flames suddenly rose from River Feather's body, containing a vast and mighty might. Before that divine general could react, a black shadow flashed in front of him. River Feather had grabbed Qi Diqiang's neck and lifted him into the air. Prince Consort, you cannot. How dare you humiliate my wife? You deserve to die. Boom. Boundless devil flames churned, and suddenly, Qi Diqiang's body was enveloped in raging flames. His face instantly contorted. Chapter 392. Ah! Painful screams instantly resounded throughout the entire relay station. People walked in from outside the hall and looked over. They were just here to watch the show. Which side character was the same? Everyone looked at the second prince of Great Qi, who was struggling in River Feather's hands, and swallowed hard. It was obvious that River Feather was torturing him on purpose. The evil flame was currently circulating around Qi Diqiang's body, burning and invading. Soon, his body began to wither. This fierce flame could actually burn a person's blood and bones? Ah! Kill me! Kill me quickly! Qi Diqiang wailed in pain, his eyes filled with despair. At this moment, death was actually an extravagant hope for him. Xia Yanran looked at River Feather, who was standing in the hall with an indifferent expression. Her gaze gradually became dazed, shocked, and finally, there was a trace of fear. So, this was the true appearance of this abandoned son-in-law of Great Xia? He was decisive, fierce, and domineering. Inexplicably, Xia Yanran's heart that had been cold for 3 years suddenly felt a trace of warmth. He did all this for me. I beg you kill me, plop. River Feather casually threw Qi Deqiang on the ground. At this moment, the latter no longer had a human form. He was like a piece of wriggling dead meat that emitted a foul smell. From now on, whoever dares to humiliate this emperor's wife will end up like this person. River Feather turned his head and looked calmly at the envoys of various dynasties outside the hall. His tone was cold and decisive. After all, he was about to return to Great Qin and inherit the throne. What was there to fear from these small dynasties? Qi Deqiang snatched his wife. Great Qi should give him an explanation for this hatred. Otherwise, Great Qin's army will arrive soon. Since he was returning, then, he had to come to the peak and call the 7 dynasties to congratulate him. Plop! It was only when River Feather raised his foot and stepped on Qi Deqiang's head that the hall became completely silent. A wisp of demonic energy quietly spread out, intimidating everyone. Gulp! This River Feather, when did he become so domineering? I don't know, but that flame seems to contain demonic intent. Shut up. You don't want to live anymore. Everyone outside the hall dispersed, afraid that this abandoned son-in-law of Great Xia would remember their ridicule and kill them all. Yanran, let's return to the palace. River Yu walked in front of Xia Yanran, taking off his outer robe and putting it on the girl, a gentle smile on his lips. Also, Yanran, shouldn't we also be husband and wife? What? Xia Yanran froze, her heart skipping a beat when she saw the desire on River Yu's face. Suddenly, she felt that River Feather had changed. Your body is not in good condition. For the past 3 years, I have been using medicinal baths to change your body constitution. Now that my cultivation has recovered, I should start to dissolve the yin essence in your body. At that time, Weekend Jiang Yu's gaze landed on Xia Yanran's chest, an unconcealed heat in his tone. Me? Poor health? Change one's constitution? Xia Yanran furrowed her eyebrows slightly. If it was in the past, she would never believe what River Yu said. But now, when she saw the young man's talent and domineering attitude, she felt a little lost. Who exactly was he? Let's go back to the palace first. With a faint smile, River Yu reached out to hold Xia Yanran's hand and walked out of the relay station. However, just as the two of them walked out of the hall, guards in armor suddenly ran over from the street in the distance and surrounded the two of them. How dare you, River Yu? How dare you commit murder in the relay station? Surrender now. The leader was the commander of the Great Xia Imperial Army, Jiang Yan. His cultivation was at the first stage of the God Emperor realm. Commander Jiang, are you sure you want to capture me? River Yu did not panic in the face of danger. Or rather, he was no longer the stray dog from 3 years ago. A mere commander of the Imperial Army dared to act violently in front of him? As long as I reveal my identity as the Great Qin Empire's emperor, all of you will have to kneel before me. River Yu, the emperor is furious that you killed an envoy from the Great Xia Empire. He ordered us to capture you and bring you to justice so that we can give Great Qi an explanation. You better not resist. Otherwise, don't blame us for being merciless. Jiang Yan looked coldly at the calm young man. He also had some doubts in his heart. Did this River Yu eat a bear's heart and leopard's guts? He dared to kill someone in the relay station of the Great Xia Empire? Furthermore, he killed the second prince of the Great Qi Empire in front of the envoys of the various dynasties? However, this child had concealed his strength extremely well. A third-stage god general. Such talent was comparable to the top geniuses of the western border. Ha ha ha, River Yu shook his head and sneered. However, just as he was about to reveal his identity, a voice suddenly sounded from the void. Grandson. Grandfather. Very inexplicably, River Yu's expression changed. A trace of uneasiness suddenly appeared in his heart. At this moment, his grandfather's voice seemed to be somewhat anxious and downcast. What happened? I just received news that the supreme Taoism orthodoxy that I prepared for you was destroyed by Xiao Beifa and his men. That traitor turned out to have sided with the great Qin Empire's new emperor. What? River Yu's eyes widened. A mouthful of blood directly flowed out of his mouth. He almost fainted on the spot. Cur. So, what you're saying is that I can't return to the great Qin Empire. My empire, my throne, are all gone? In the end, he could not hold it in. Beep. The Son of Destiny is filled with despair. Congratulations to the host for plundering 300 luck points and 3,000 villain point. Grandson, don't panic. No one knows that I came to the Great Xia this time. So, you haven't been exposed yet. You only need to endure for 3 more years. Grandfather will definitely help you establish another orthodoxy and take back your empire. I won't say any more. The experts of the Great Xia have noticed me. I'll run first. Grandfather! Grandfather! River Yu roared in his heart. Tears appeared in his eyes. F***ck. This life is really full of ups and downs? Isn't this extreme joy turning into sorrow? You should have said so earlier. I've already killed people, acted cool, and was trapped. You're running away by yourself. No, you should have at least gotten me out. Now that I've lost my identity, killed Qi Deqiang, and exposed my trump card, do you think the great Xia Emperor will let me go? F***ck. River Yu, what happened to you? Seeming to feel the despair exuding from River Yu, a trace of surprise flashed past Xia Yanran's beautiful eyes. Yanran, do you believe me? River Yu smiled bitterly. A trace of darkness flashed past his eyes. I might not be able to do it for the time being. But, can you help me escape from Longyan City? I'll definitely come back for you. River Yu, what do you mean by this? Aren't you the emperor of a region? Don't worry, father won't make things too difficult for you. At that time, I'll say that you did it to save me. There was a trace of doubt between Xia Yanran's eyebrows. She seemed to be a little disappointed. This River Yu, why is he so flustered? Could it be that he was lying to me just now? No, Yanran, I can't stay in Longyan City. Otherwise, my life will be in danger. Don't worry, I won't hurt you. You only need to cooperate with me to put on a show. I'll let you come back after I leave the city. What a joke. I've even exposed my trump card, the spiritual fire. Once the great Xia Emperor becomes greedy, do I still have any chance of survival? If I become the emperor, the great Xia Emperor will have to consider it. But now I have to run. If I don't leave now, I'm afraid I won't be able to keep my life. Chapter 393. What? Xia Yanran's expression froze. Before she could react, River Feather's hand was already on her neck. Don't come over. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. River Feather Yu, a trace of panic flashed through Xia Yanran's eyes. She never dreamed that this husband who had just sworn to bring her to rule the world would use her life as a threat in the blink of an eye. River Feather, you dare. Seeing this, Jiang Yan and the others were also surprised. But before they could threaten him, a trace of confusion flashed through River Feather's eyes. F***ck? Heaven and earth fell silent, turning into endless night. A faint black moon rose in the sky, revealing endless strangeness. Then, he watched blankly as Xia Yanran's figure was held in the arms of a white-clothed youth. And he only felt a pain in his head as he was captured by Jiang Yan. Sir! Xia Yanran looked up, her heart trembling fiercely when she saw the handsome and indifferent face. Even though she had no idea how he had managed to save her, But, being held in his arms at this time, there was an inexplicable sense of security. Beep. The destined daughter is grateful and extremely disappointed in the destined son. Congratulations to the host for plundering 200 luck points and 2,000 villain points. Princess Yanran is frightened. Ling Zhao's eyes were calm as he looked at River Feather, whose expression was gradually turning ferocious, and said softly, "River Feather, you really disappoint me. In my opinion, you killing Qi Diqiang was the act of a good man. If you killed him, then you killed him. I will protect you, but you should never have used Princess Yanran's life as a threat. You are simply shameless." River Feather's body trembled, but in the end, he was unable to refute. That's right. This young sir's lesson was extremely right. What happened to me? Even if I was in despair and fear, I should not have hurt Yanran. Thinking of this, River Feather actually shed tears of regret. "Sir, River Feather has a request." River Feather suddenly looked up, his eyes filled with determination. "Speak. If anything untoward happens to me on this trip, I hope that you will take good care of Yanran for me. Don't let her suffer again." River Feather fiercely clenched his teeth. In the current Grand Xia, the only person he could trust and rely on was this righteous lord. With his promise, Yanran would not have any more setbacks. At least you still have some conscience. Don't worry, I will protect Yanran." Ling Xiao scoffed coldly before he carried Xia Yanran and rushed towards Huayuan Palace. From start to finish, River Feather didn't show the slightest hint of jealousy. Now that his future was uncertain, the only person he could not let go of was Xia Yanran. "Yanran, promise me you'll be happy. If I have the chance, I'll bring you to rule the world." Huayuan Palace, Rear Hall. Ling Xiao gently placed the girl in his arms on the soft couch and took off her River Feather clothes. For a moment, there was a ripple in Xia Yanran's heart. If my lord wants, should I refuse and be reserved, or cooperate with him? None of them seemed appropriate. Although I haven't done the deed with River Feather, we are still husband and wife in name. But if I refuse, what if my lord gets angry? It's very annoying. Yanran, you've been frightened today. You should rest well. Don't worry, I'll talk to your imperial father about Riveryu. I know that you actually care about him in your heart. However, Great Qi also needs an explanation. I will protect his life. But what made Xia Yanran feel disappointed was that Ling Xiao only picked up the soft blanket on the couch and covered her with it before he turned and left. From start to finish, he didn't even look at her. "My lord, you are indeed a person who cares about the world. How can you waste time on relationships? It's Yanran who is narrow-minded. Indeed, those who can become the ruler of a region are not lecherous people." Until Ling Zhao's figure disappeared, Xia Yanran curled up on the couch with a complicated expression in her eyes. Today's matter was full of ups and downs for her. Fortunately, her body wasn't ruined by that bastard Qi Diqiang, but when she thought of River Feather, Xia Yanran was slightly confused. The talent he showed was real, and the domineering way he killed Qi Diqiang was also real. A peerless genius like him should be the center of attention, so why was he willing to stay by her side and endure for 3 years? And there didn't seem to be any royal family with the surname Jiang in Shijiang. Could it be that this was his alias? But what exactly was he plotting, and what was he hiding? That kind of pitch-black evil flame was very frightening. It seemed to be a kind of demonic flame. Could it be that this River Feather was a demon? Also, what did he say about my body? What was that all about? Dissolving the yin energy? In the end, Xia Yanran couldn't think clearly and fell into a deep sleep. At this time, she didn't want to care about anything. No matter if River Feather was a demon or an emperor, from the moment he used her life to threaten her, the trust between them was already broken. In the end, life was precious. But, like what the Lord said, perhaps there was a trace of feelings in her heart that she didn't want to admit. It has been 3 years. Outside Huayuan Palace, Ling Xiao turned to look at the hall behind him, and his figure disappeared instantly. "My lord!" In front of the Sky Hall, Folded Shadow stood beside Ling Xiao, his eyes full of respect. "How are the death attendants that you trained?" Ling Xiao took a sip of the tea that Yi Qingchan handed over, his expression still calm. The line was drawn, and the fish was already in the jar. It was about time to pull in the net. After all, the Son of Destiny was really a long night with many dreams. For example, people like Lin Shi and Xia Chen, even if they were firmly controlled by Ling Xiao, there would still be some unpredictable changes that would occur. Of course, if everything went according to Ling Xiao's plan, the words the heavenly Tao would be too weak and powerless. Now that River Feather's luck was about to run out, he only needed to give him a fatal blow, and this leek would be harvested. As for what could be called a fatal blow, haha, little Yanran was his weak spot, and the beauty of that Yuan body was really good. Rather than letting others benefit, why not let me be the first in the world? Their comprehension is not bad, but I'm afraid it will take some time for them to carry out missions alone. Stacked Shadow reported truthfully. Pick a good-for-nothing, it will be of great use tonight. Ling Zhao's lips curled up, and Stacked Shadow's eyes flickered with a cold light. Yes. Night fell. The incident that happened during the day had already spread throughout the great Xia Empire. But surprisingly, Emperor Xia did not execute River Feather, but imprisoned him in the heavenly prison. Of course, there was also a deeper meaning behind Ling Zhao's action. After all, the Supreme Lord said that River Feather had a demonic intent, and he might have some shocking identity. There was no hurry to kill him for now, as he might be able to uncover a greater secret. Although Emperor Xia coveted the spiritual fire on that youth, what could he do since the Supreme Lord had spoken? Of course, he could only lock him up and torture him. In the great Xia prison, River Feather's hands were tied and he was hung in the prison. In front of him, Jiang Yen coldly looked at the youth in front of him. The whip in his hand was stained with blood. Prince Consort, why aren't you opening your mouth? Speak, who else do you have in this dragon fortune city? Fang Cheng's disappearance was strange, so Emperor Xia had personally ordered this great commander of the imperial army to interrogate River Feather to prevent any accidents. I want to see Emperor Xia. I want to see that Supreme Lord. River Feather's expression was ferocious, his eyes filled with death. He suddenly regretted it. Why did he have to act cool? It was fine if he killed Qi Deqiang, but why did he have to kidnap Xia Yanran and completely cut off his escape route? If he was more stable back then, with that Supreme Lord's righteousness, he might have helped him after seeing that he was wholeheartedly devoted to his wife, right? But now he brought this upon himself. Chapter 394. Meet the Emperor? Meet the Lord? River Feather, you must be dreaming. You killed Daki's second prince and kidnapped the fifth princess. Your crimes are punishable by death. Speak, who sent you here? Jiang Yen sneered. He waved the whip in his hand and whipped River Feather's body, causing blood to spurt out. No one sent me. I advise the great commander not to waste your energy. River Feather clenched his teeth, not daring to mention Qin Chao. Xiao Beifeng had already betrayed him and his grandfather's orthodoxy had been destroyed. If he mentioned Qin Chao now, wouldn't he be seeking death? The only hope in his heart was that Xia Yanran would take into account their 3 years of friendship and persuade the Lord to save his life. Good, good. Let's see how long you can keep your mouth shut. Slap, slap, slap. The whip continued to fall, leaving bloody marks on River Feather's body. At this moment, the candlelight in the prison suddenly flickered. Then, a clamor came from the prison door. HM? There really is an accomplice. A cold light appeared on Jiang Yan's face. He was only a bait here. That lord had personally promised that he would pay attention to this place and kill the demon for Daxia. In the eyes of Emperor Xia and that lord, River Feather might be a chess piece set up by someone else. He had endured in Daxia for 3 years, so that he could one day cause trouble for Daxia and stir up conflict. When a dynasty went on a campaign, all kinds of schemes were used. As for who would benefit in the end, Emperor Xia couldn't say for sure. After all, his empire wasn't obtained honorably. There were countless people who wished for his death. Of course, Jiang Yan didn't know Ling Zhao's true identity. But how terrifying was the strength of a person that even Emperor Xia bowed to. Even if it was a heavenly demon, so what? Buzz. Spiritual light blossomed, and Jiang Yan's figure instantly disappeared. At the entrance, Xing Shun, Hua Heng, and several other divine king experts were wearing black clothes and covering their faces. They were coldly looking at the group of rotten fish and shrimps that were in charge of guarding the prison. At this moment, a trace of demonic energy surged on their bodies. It was a trick set up by Ling Xiao. Good. Ha 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 ha, please show yourself and kill this demon for the world. Jiang Yan laughed. But at this time, the world was silent, without the slightest fluctuation. After a long while, his expression slowly froze. What happened to paying attention to this place? My lord, the devil is here. Where did you go? For the sake of the world, who shall I kill? Xing Shun and Hua Heng exchanged glances. They naturally didn't care about a mere first-grade divine emperor. It's just that the lord still needs some time. 1 hour should be enough, right? Forget it. Master is so young. I'm afraid it will take a little longer. Buzz. Spiritual light that blotted the heavens flickered. In the next moment, Jiang Yan and the others were dumbfounded as demonic light seemed to rush into the heavens from Hua Heng and the others as they took a step forward. In front of a level 3 God Emperor and a level 4 God Emperor, Jiang Yan naturally had no way to resist. However, the two of them were intentionally stalling for time and did not kill him. In the depths of the prison, River Feather's eyes flashed with joy. Is someone trying to break me out of prison? Could it be? Grandpa is back? Huayuan Palace. In Xia Yanran's palace, the candlelight suddenly flickered and the world turned dark. A black-robed figure could be seen flying in from outside without arousing any suspicion. Outside the palace, the guards in charge of guarding the palace only saw darkness in front of their eyes. Then they lost all their senses. Xia Yanran opened her eyes in a daze, only to see that she seemed to be in a completely unfamiliar space. It was dark and ancient. There seemed to be a black moon hanging above her head. A figure walked out from under the moon with a sinister smile on his face. River Feather. How did you escape? Xia Yanran suddenly stood up. Looking at the figure slowly walking in front of her, her beautiful eyes were filled with a complicated expression. In terms of talent, this River Feather could be said to be the top in Great Xia. He was more than enough to be a match for her. However, now that he had killed De Qi's second prince and threatened her with his life, there was no longer any feelings between them. But how did he escape from father's hands? Or, did that lord save him? Xia Yanran, it's all because of you that I ended up in this situation today. I was tortured in prison, but you're sleeping soundly here? River Feather shook his head, a scarlet light flashing in his eyes. Right now, he was no longer as gentle and humble as he usually was. There was a faint evil in him. River Feather, what do you want to do? Inexplicably, a trace of fear suddenly appeared in Xia Yanran's heart. Especially the devilish smile on the young man's lips, it made her feel a bone-chilling coldness under her feet. What do I want to do? Don't you know? Xia Yanran, why do you think I endured in Great Xia for 3 years? River Feather shook his head and laughed softly. In just one step, he was in front of Xia Yanran. Of course it's for you. Don't come over. River Feather, don't come over. If not, I'll scream. Xia Yanran stepped back unconsciously, but in the end, River Feather grabbed her neck. Scream all you want. Even if you scream until your throat breaks, no one will save you. 3 years. If it wasn't because of your special physique, do you think I would be willing to be humiliated by your Xia family? River Feather laughed darkly. A demonic light flashed in his hands as he sealed Xia Yanran's spiritual energy and threw her to the ground ruthlessly. But what about you? You actually went to serve that Qi Deqiang? I hate you. Xia Yanran, I hate you. Today, I'll let you know who your husband is." With that said, River Feather no longer hesitated. His clothes fell off and he pounced towards Xia Yanran. "No. River Feather. You beast. I won't let you go even if I become a ghost." Boom! A trace of pain suddenly came. Then, Xia Yanran found with some fear that the spiritual energy in her body was crazily rushing into River Feather. At the same time, the aura around the latter fluctuated. Even the spiritual fire in his body was surging. Heat, demonic energy, the aura of a divine general. "River Feather, I hate you." "Beast. Stop. Stop. I'll die if you do this." Feeling the obvious loss of spiritual energy and life force, Xia Yanran's eyes filled with tears. However, the more she resisted, the more excited the youth on top of her became. It wasn't until 2 hours later that her cultivation turned to nothing and her entire body went limp that River Feather suddenly roared into the skies. Then, Xia Yanran watched with her mouth agape as River Feather suddenly stood up and turned into a demonic shadow. It was a true demon that was exuding a murderous aura. With just one look, Xia Yanran felt her heart tremble and she was almost killed by that demonic aura. "How is this possible? You're a demon. You're really a demon." Xia Yanran lay on the ground, her face pale as she wailed helplessly. Although River Feather had shown his demonic aura when he killed Qi Diqiang. However, Xia Yanran only thought that it was because of the cultivation method he practiced. But now, when she saw the terrifying demonic shadow in front of her, she knew that she was wrong. So it was. This River Feather was actually a true demon. When she thought about how the person she accompanied for the past 3 years was actually a demon, Xia Yanran felt a chill run down her spine. "Haha, Xia Yanran, everything is over." Chapter 395. No. Don't kill me. Tears flickered in Xia Yanran's eyes. However, she had lost all her cultivation and could not resist at all. The demonic hand stretched out and grabbed at her fiercely. "No!" Boom. However, when the demonic hand was only a few feet away from her, the world suddenly shook. The originally dark world began to shine with light. Then, Xia Yanran saw a white-clothed figure descend from the sky with a dignified expression. My lord." Beep. The destined woman revered the true demon as her god. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 200 luck points and 2,000 villain points. The destined woman has lost her luck. However, her luck is too low and does not meet the requirements of the reward for killing her. River Feather. So you're a demon. The person who came was naturally Ling Zhao's double image. At this moment, her face was also filled with shock. Then, she waved her hand and pressed down with a seal. River Feather's expression changed. The demonic aura around him surged, but in the end, half of his body was still crushed by that seal. The two figures rushed out of the ancient palace one after the other, leaving Xia Yanran alone on the bed with a dazed expression. So, River Feather is a demon. So, he had already seen through my special constitution. These 3 years, he was only scheming against my cultivation. No wonder. He prepared medicinal baths for me every day with all his heart and helped me break through. He was not helping me dissolve the yin energy in my body. He was just fattening me up before eating me? Xia Yanran laughed softly, but in the end she burst into tears. However, at this moment, Ling Xiao returned from outside the palace with a bitter and sorrowful expression. "Yanran, my lord, I'm not pure anymore." Xia Yanran cried out sorrowfully as tears streamed down her face. Now, her body was broken and her cultivation was scattered. She had become trash in the eyes of his lord. Her path to immortality had come to an end. I didn't expect that even with my experience, I would not be able to see River Feather's true body. However, Yanran, don't worry. He won't be able to escape even if he grows wings. Ling Xiao sighed and pulled Xia Yanran into his arms. However, a cold smile flashed across his face. An 8th-grade divine general. Xia Yanran's constitution was indeed mysterious. Of course, there was another important reason why this plan could be carried out perfectly. It was because River Yu had not really done anything with Xia Yanran in the past 3 years. Not only did he preserve the latter's in-origin energy, but more importantly, F***CK. Who in this world is more powerful than me? If Xia Yanran had a taste of River Yu, wouldn't she be able to see through my identity easily? Go. I will help you capture him, and you will personally kill him. Thank you, my lord. Xia Yanran put on her clothes, her face expressionless. The reason why she was still alive was so that she could personally witness River Yu's death. Prison in the summer. River Feather looked at the black-clothed youth in front of him in surprise, a hint of doubt in his eyes. You, who are you? Prince Consort, I'm here to save you. Come with me. The black-clothed youth slashed out with his dagger, breaking apart River Feather's chains. Prince Consort? You were sent by Yanran? Prince Consort, if you don't leave now, it will be too late later. The princess said that they were not fated to meet in this life, so they could only meet again in the next life. The princess saved you, and I'm afraid this matter cannot be kept under wraps. The princess, I'm afraid, sighed. The black-clothed youth sighed softly. Prince Consort, go. I'll send you out of the city. No. I want to save Yanran. I want to take her away. River Yu's originally disappointed and hopeless heart started to ripple again. So, Yanran still loved him. That's right, Yanran was such a person. She was cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. She never showed her feelings on her face. Wanting but not being able to get was the hardest thing to give up. Prince Consort, you can't. Now that you've broken out of prison, I'm afraid there will be strong people soon. I'd better send you out of the city quickly. The black-clothed youth furrowed his eyebrows tightly, his expression extremely anxious. But at this moment, River Yu seemed to have made up his mind. He shook off the youth's hand ruthlessly and ran out of the prison. Yanran, I've hurt you once, and I definitely won't hurt you a second time. But, right at this moment, Xing Shen, who had been waiting in the dark, suddenly waved his hand and sent a seal towards River Yu. Not good. It's the God Emperor. River Yu's expression changed greatly. Demonic flames surged around him. But after all, he was just a divine champion, and after being tortured by Jiang Yen for so long, he was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Therefore, when the seal landed, it actually shattered half of his body. Prince Consort. The black-clothed youth cried out in grief and instantly rushed towards Xing Shen. Grandson, leave quickly. In the void, a familiar old voice sounded again. HM? It's grandfather. River Yu's eyes narrowed slightly. Blood dripped from his mouth, but he didn't dare to hesitate and instantly disappeared from the spot. Grandfather. In the end, you still can't let go of your grandson. At the most crucial moment, you still came back. Yanran. I'm here. Don't be afraid. While no one is paying attention, I'll take you away. Buzz. But, when River Yu's figure appeared in Huayuan Palace, the originally pitch-black night suddenly became as bright as day. It was as if a thunder sun had risen between heaven and earth. It stretched across the sky, emitting a dazzling radiance. River Yu instinctively raised his hand to block his eyes. In his confusion, he seemed to see several figures slowly walking in front of the palace and surrounding him. HM? My lord. Yanran. Empress. To be honest, River Yu was a little confused right now. Especially the way Xia Yanran was looking at him, it was filled with a terrifying and vicious hatred. Could it be that she was blaming him for walking into a trap? That's right. Damn it, how did Emperor Xia and the others come so quickly? I clearly just escaped from the imperial prison, so why do they seem to have been guarding this place for a long time? Beat. The child of destiny feels fear in his heart. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. Milord truly has divine foresight. In this world, the most dangerous place is also the safest place. Riverview knows that he can't escape, so he still wants to hide in Huayuan Palace. Emperor Xia smiled eerily. Divine light flowed in his eyes, emitting a dignified aura. This is the place he's most familiar with. Perhaps he's already left a backup plan, but we don't know where those devils are hiding. Ling Zhao's gaze was somewhat grave. His gaze towards River Yu was filled with heartache. Devils? River Yu frowned slightly. What are they talking about? It seems to be a very profound topic. River Yu Why Xia Yanran's tears fell as she muttered to herself. On the other hand, River Yu smiled bitterly and sighed. She still can't let go of me. But Yanran, even if you send me out of the city and help me escape, how can I live alone? Forget it. Since we're not fated in this life and the matter has already been exposed, let's go through reincarnation together and meet again in the next life. Wait. Yanran, where did your cultivation go? Suddenly, River Yu's eyes widened. A strong sense of uneasiness appeared in his heart. Yanran, your cultivation, tell me. Why? I've already started to fall for you. Milord has already promised to protect your life. Why? Xia Yanran screamed sorrowfully as tears streamed down her face. What? Yanran, what are you saying? River Yu's expression became more and more confused. Suddenly, experts flew over from the distant night sky. Report. Empress, milord. The imperial prison has been massacred. The prisoners and generals have all died. The method is extremely cruel. It seems to be the work of a devil. What? Just like that, it was very sudden. River Yu felt a strong sense of uneasiness in his heart. It wasn't only because his life was in danger. It seemed like he knew some incredible secret? Could it be that his grandfather is a devil? Chapter 396. Humph. River Yu, let's see what else you have to say. Men, capture this fiendish demon for me. With a wave of Emperor Xia's hand, the guards behind him immediately stepped out and surrounded River Yu. But, Yanran, what on earth happened to you? River Yu's eyes were filled with anger, a ferocious glint in his eyes. Everything that happened tonight seemed to be a little confusing to him. Someone came to rob the prison and said it was the princess men. At the crucial moment, his grandfather came back. He couldn't let go of Yanran and wanted to take her away, but was trapped here by Emperor Xia. All of this seemed to make sense. But strangely, River Yu felt like he was being controlled by someone. Also, Yanran had lost her cultivation, so her body must have been taken by someone. Could it be in order to save me, she was willing to be that lord's servant? Suddenly, River Yu thought of a possibility, and the sadness in his eyes deepened. Yanran, I've let you down in the end. I've let down your sincerity, good intentions, and sacrifice. At this moment, River Yu was no longer angry because of Xia Yanran's sacrifice. He understood that a woman as loyal as her would not casually sell her body and soul. She did all of this. It was all for me. But Yanran, I'm sorry, I broke my promise. Ruling the world. Ha! Boom! At this moment, demonic clouds suddenly gathered in the sky. An unparalleled demonic aura pierced through heaven and earth, pressing towards Huayuan Palace. Damn it! This River Yu really has an accomplice. Emperor Xia's expression froze, the golden seal in his hand gathering, his eyes filled with anger. After a few days of fermenting, the news of what happened in Dezhou had already reached his ears. Someone said that there was a demon in Dexia who killed Dezhou's princess, Zhou Minyao. He still didn't know how the world was so sure that the demon came from Dexia, but now it seemed like someone had purposely set this up to mess up the situation in Shijiang. Just River Yu, a divine general, definitely did not have such boldness. There must be a strong person helping him behind the scenes. It seemed like this was the case. Grandfather. At this moment, River Yu's originally dim eyes suddenly lit up. At this moment, he couldn't care about his identity as a demon or a mortal. Wasn't it good to be alive? As long as he was alive, there was hope for him to make a comeback. At that time Yenran, I will definitely bring you back to my side and repay you for your kindness. Beep. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. TL note. Destiny's child is the child of destiny. Soon. Hearing the notification from the system, Ling Zhao's lips curled up slightly, but his eyes remained calm. Originally, he wanted to use Xia Yanran to break the heart of this forsaken son-in-law. But from the looks of it now, he seemed to have played himself into a cripple. He had underestimated the infatuation of this model of a dethroned son-in-law, especially the deep love and regret in River Feather's eyes as he looked at Xia Yanran. It made Ling Xiao feel an inexplicable chill. River Feather were to learn of the truth, would he die on the spot? The person of destiny had completely fallen from the sky. Wonderful! Grandson! Go! Xing Shun and Hua Heng followed closely behind Stacked Shadow. As for the black-clothed youth, he landed directly in front of River Feather, his eyes filled with the will of death. Prince Consort! Hurry and leave. Don't make the princess worry again. All right. River Feather clenched his teeth and looked deeply at Xia Yanran in the distance. At this moment, her eyes were filled with hatred, pain and a complicated killing intent. Yanran, wait for me. Boom. Demonic energy swept out, containing an ancient demonic might. Although the demonic energy on Xing Shun and Hua Heng's bodies was set up by Ling Xiao, Stacked Shadow was a true evil demon. Even though he was only in the Divine King realm, his extremely sinister and evil aura still caused the expressions of many great Xia experts to change. But just as Ling Xiao and Emperor Xia stepped forward and were about to slay the demon, a demonic light suddenly bloomed around the black-clothed youth. Then, under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, he actually used his bloodline's spiritual energy to ignite a black ancient talisman in his hand. Boom! A loud sound shook the sky, shocking everyone. As for River Feather and the others, they disappeared from their original positions. Damn it! Ling Xiao shouted angrily. Looking at the demonic light that covered the sky, he handed Xia Yanran to Emperor Xia. Look after her. I'll go slay the demon. My lord! You stay here to guard against any mishaps. Ling Zhao's voice was cold. He was obviously extremely angry. Emperor Xia did not dare to say another word. With this lord's means, killing a few demons shouldn't be a big problem, right? Buzz! On the peak of a lone mountain outside Dragon Fortune City, Xing Shun and the others landed. At the head of the group, River Feather stood with his hands behind his back. His eyes were filled with vicissitudes as he looked at the majestic ancient city in the distance. After leaving for many years, I will definitely not disappoint you when I return. Yanran, wait for me to rule the world. In this world, I will grant you unparalleled prosperity. At this moment, River Feather's voice was heavy, filled with ambition, and also somewhat domineering. Now, he had finally escaped from his cage. The world was vast. From now on, he would be a dragon returning to the deep sea and a tiger roaring in the mountains. Who could stop him from becoming a great emperor? Although his grandfather's orthodoxy had been destroyed and the great Qin dynasty had fallen into the hands of evil people, River Feather was confident that with his talent, he would definitely step into the peak of the immortal Tao and rule the world in less than 10 years. Yanran, if I become a great emperor in the future, I will claim the title of empress. Buzz! A buzzing sound began to resound between heaven and earth. Ling Zhao's figure stepped on the air and flew over. His expression was still calm. However, at this moment, His face seemed to be covered by immortal clouds. His appearance could not be seen clearly, nor could the mocking smile on his lips be seen. F***ck. My good deposed son-in-law, you still have the time to give pointers here? However, at this moment, Ling Xiao did not directly expose the identities of Double Shadow and the others. Instead, he glanced at the foot of the mountain with clear eyes. There, he did not sense any fluctuations of vitality. However, a faint lightning and fire intent still could not escape his divine soul's perception. After all, his lightning and fire were already at the great perfection realm. Naturally, he was extremely sensitive to the power of the same origin. Is it that big shot in men's clothing that I met in the restaurant that day? Interesting. Looks like you didn't come to Dragon Fortune City without a purpose. Ling Xiao smiled sinisterly. The soul seal in his eyes fell and suppressed River Feather and the others. Not good. Someone is chasing after us. River Feather's expression changed drastically. Xing Shen and the others grabbed his shoulders and flew into the distance. Ling Xiao also chased after them. Only when everyone was far away did a white-clothed figure walk out from the foot of the mountain. It was Qiu Qinghan. So, there really is a demon in the western border. Moreover, it has already taken shape? That demonic qi can't be wrong. However, why did the person who appeared at the end look familiar? In the end, Qiu Qinghan did not think too much and chased after them. However, just as she was in the air, she suddenly discovered that the auras of those people had disappeared without a trace. As expected of a demon. His methods are indeed brilliant. No, with my strength, it will be difficult to kill him. I have to inform that lord. Chapter 397. Within the realm, River Feather's soul sea trembled and he felt dizzy. However, when he opened his eyes again, he was already in a completely unfamiliar world. The spiritual energy in this place was very dense and natural. The two majestic mountains, in particular, were filled with immortal intent. Ancient palaces could be seen in the distance. It was like a scene out of this world. Could it be? This place is. River Feather narrowed his eyes and turned to look at the two emperors and one king behind him. That day, his grandfather did not reveal his true appearance. He had always been wearing a black robe. To be honest, he did not know which one was his beloved grandfather at this moment. Grandfather, is this where your orthodoxy is located? Wonderful. This place was clearly an independent space. As long as he stayed here peacefully, it would be very difficult for anyone to discover his whereabouts. As long as he cultivated diligently, he could become a martial emperor in 10 years and make a dazzling appearance. At that time, who in the western border would be able to stop him? The heaven and earth spirit fire was originally a first-rate mysterious item in this world. Now, his master had used his own spiritual energy to fuse it into his body. Haha, I, River Feather, am not targeting anyone. Today, all those who insulted me must die. Slap. However, before River Feather could fantasize for too long, a sharp pain suddenly came from his head. The moment he turned his head to look, his face suddenly froze. Say, as he, my lord. At this moment, the person who appeared before him was actually the lord that Emperor Xia worshipped as a god. But, why were his grandfather and the others indifferent and even smiling? Could it be? My good grandson, are you not happy to see your grandfather? Ling Xiao deliberately lowered his voice and said with a faint smile. You are my grandfather. At this moment, River Feather was completely shocked. However, immediately after, he seemed to have comprehended. Could it be that all of this is grandfather's test for me? That's right. There must be no mistake. I've long heard that regardless of whether it is a power or a dynasty, there must be a test before passing on the throne to prevent the orthodoxy from declining. In that case, grandfather's orthodoxy was actually not destroyed? Xiao Beifa might not necessarily have betrayed him? And grandfather does indeed have an astonishing background. Even Emperor Xia bowed his head to him? As River Feather thought of this, his body started to tremble. Grandfather, you've worked hard. Looking at the young man who respectfully bowed to him, Ling Xiao was stunned for a moment before he shook his head and smiled. It was too terrifying. As expected, these people of destiny all thought themselves infallible. However, it made sense when he thought about it. The protection of the heavenly Tao itself was all sorts of good things that were impossible to happen to them. Only then would he be worthy of the two words, Heaven's Mandate. But River Feather would never have imagined that in just 2 short days, Ling Xiao had already plundered most of his destiny. My good grandson, I suddenly remembered something. Ling Xiao stretched out his hand and patted River Feather's shoulder. Right now, you're only at the God General realm. If you want to take back the Qin clan's empire, I'm afraid that it will be impossible for you to do so without at least 30 to 50 years. Why don't you, Grandpa, don't worry. I will work hard to cultivate and step into the Emperor realm like you. Although at this time, River Feather didn't know why his grandfather still had the appearance of a young man even though he was clearly very old. But that's not important anymore. With such an awesome grandfather, isn't the world in my hands? However, there's one thing. Is Yanran really? No. You've misunderstood. What I mean is that the spirit fire in your body is a divine item of heaven and earth. If I confuse with it, who in the western border will be able to stop me? Great Qin's glory is just around the corner, isn't it? Ling Xiao smiled sinisterly. The excitement on River Feather's face instantly froze. Grandfather, what are you talking about? I've endured for 3 years just to fuse with this spirit fire. If I give it to you, it's fine. As long as I'm alive, I'll have plenty of grandchildren. But if I die, how can you be my grandson? Strangely, River Feather felt that his grandfather's words made sense. But, so, grandfather didn't save me to help me become an emperor. He saved me for the spirit fire in my body. In an instant, River Feather felt a chill all over his body and his face turned deathly pale. It was as if something in his heart had shattered. Beat. The Tao heart of the Son of Destiny has shattered. His destiny has returned to 0. Kill him now and you will receive an additional reward. It's finally here. Ling Xiao nodded and smiled. My performance for so long was not in vain. I've spent so much time and effort. My immortal path as the Son of Destiny has finally come to an end. My good grandson, don't worry. Your grandfather will definitely take back Great Qin, unify the western border, and fulfill your dreams. You can go in peace. After saying that, Ling Xiao no longer hesitated. He suddenly clenched his fist, and his eyes shone brightly. River Feather felt his divine soul tremble. After that, there was no more after that. The Son of Destiny had died on the spot. A jumbled memory appeared in Ling Xiao's soul sea. At the same time, the netherworld demonic flame that had fused with River Feather's body suddenly turned into a sea of fire and enveloped Ling Xiao. Beat. Congratulations to host for killing the Son of Destiny. You have received an additional reward. Immemorial immortal technique, profound heaven ancient scripture. Boom! The sky demonic flame rained down. Ling Xiao's eyes narrowed slightly, but his expression remained calm. Although he really didn't want to suffer the pain of the spiritual fire entering his body, it seemed that he had no other choice. Fortunately, he had experienced fusing with spiritual fire before, so he was able to remain calm at this moment. Blazing scripture fuse. Like a dragon sucking in water, the netherworld demonic flame instantly turned into a waterfall of fire and poured into Ling Xiao's body. The latter's face instantly turned pale. A surge of demonic qi howled around him, turning into a demonic shadow that intimidated all living things. After a long while, Ling Xiao suddenly opened his eyes. The aura exuding from his body had reached the 8th stage of divine general. The blazing scripture was one of the most mysterious cultivation methods in the world. As more spiritual fire fused with one's body, one's cultivation realm and battle prowess would become more terrifying. Originally, Ling Xiao had relied heavily on the myriad demonic technique to conceal the demonic qi in his body. But now a profound heaven ancient scripture? At the peak of cultivation, one could create 3 Tao bodies? Wonderful! Ling Xiao smiled faintly and sat down cross-legged. System, add a point to the profound heaven ancient scripture. Boom! A terrifying wave of spiritual energy instantly spread out, crushing the void for thousands of miles. In the realm, monstrous spirit qi rolled and turned into a tide, gathering around Ling Xiao's body. Above his head, Tao light shone brightly. There were 2 immortal shadows sitting cross-legged, reflecting the light of his body. When the divine eyes opened and closed, there was an indescribable Tao law. However, even after spending 40,000 villain points, the profound heaven ancient scripture was only cultivated to the 1st level, the Shangqing realm. There was still a level of Yuqing before reaching the grand pure realm. Even so, there seemed to be immortal light sprinkling around Ling Xiao's body, deriving the Tao. It was indescribably magical. In the Shangqing realm, the immortal aura was added to the body, forming the Genesis Xian Huang sacred body. It was indescribable. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Until the sky above the realm was covered by dark clouds. The apocalyptic tribulation lightning suddenly fell, and the mountain Ling Xiao was on was almost instantly shattered. What a terrifying lightning tribulation! Did Lord break through again? Xing Shen and the others were shocked as they looked at the doomsday-like world through the void. A 17-year-old divine overlord? Even in the entire Xingzhou, this was an unprecedented existence. Invincible celestial beauty, a young noble. At that moment, Xing Shen and the others seemed to see a demonic sun rising in the sky of the Xingzhou continent. In the end, the world was going to be in turmoil. Chapter 398. Deity Overlord Realm. The lightning tribulation slowly dissipated, and the sky became clear again. Ling Xiao calmly looked at the shattered mountains and earth. There was no joy in his eyes. Instead, there was a trace of gloominess. If his guess was right, the aura that chased River Feather out of the city and hid at the foot of the mountain should belong to Qiu Qinghan. However, although she had luck, she didn't have any vitality. It was really strange. The divine envoys of the Saints sect had already arrived at the 4 borders. Could it be that Qiu Qinghan was from the Saints sect? But wasn't her cultivation a little too low? However, River Feather was already dead, and the news that he was a demon would soon spread through the western borders. It would be enough to keep the Saints sect busy for a while. However, there wasn't much time left for Ling Xiao. The divine envoys had appeared to search for traces of the demon. The Saints sect's next step was to send experts to kill the true demon. As for River Feather's identity from his memories, Ling Xiao already knew about it. Back then, this prince of the great Qin Empire was born with an immortal aura protecting him. The Qin Emperor saw him as the next emperor of the great Qin Empire. However, at that time, the great Qin Empire was in turmoil. Hence, for safety's sake, the Qin Emperor secretly sent him out of the palace. Only a few of his trusted aides knew where he went. The Pill Emperor was a famous god-emperor expert of the great Qin Empire. His alchemy skills were incredible, and he had the same status as Ling Xiao's mother in the eastern borders. River Feather was his personal disciple. However, the heavens didn't fulfill his wishes. When River Feather reached adulthood, he should have returned to the great Qin Empire to inherit the throne. Who would have thought that a traitor in the imperial court would find out about this and set up a shocking scheme? Not only did they kill the Qin Emperor, but they also exposed the Pill Emperor's deepest secret. A heaven and earth spiritual flame. The Pill Emperor didn't belong to any sect and lived in seclusion. Hence, he was destined to be less of a threat. Enemies chased after him, and experts surrounded him. River Feather's master was decisive. He used his lifetime's cultivation to seal the heaven and earth spiritual flame in River Feather's body. He also gave the ancient ring that represented his identity to River Feather. Xiao Beifa, the Qin Emperor's sworn brother, was the great Qin Empire's general. He was River Feather's only chance to make a comeback, and 3 years was more than enough time for River Feather to escape from the sight of his enemies. It was also enough time for Xiao Beifeng to lead his army back and exterminate his treacherous subjects. Everything was flawless. However, Pill Emperor would never have dreamed that there would be a transmigrator in this world. Now that River Feather was dead, the spirit fire and the ancient ring that symbolized his identity had both fallen into Ling Zhao's hands. No one knew who he was. Even the current ruler of the Great Qin, Empress Wushuang, had only heard of this cousin but had never seen him in person. Thus, Ling Zhao's opportunity had arrived. However, the only thing that Ling Xiao was unsure of was whether the Empress was willing to give up her imperial power. After all, in this world, it was very difficult for someone to truly abdicate their position. In the western frontier, there were 8 dynasties. However, it was divided into the upper 4 dynasties and the lower 4 dynasties. According to Ling Zhao's knowledge, the Qin dynasty was ranked second among the 4 upper dynasties. In other words, the internal strife of the Qin dynasty did not reduce its national strength. It was even said that when the Empress of the Qin dynasty quelled the internal strife, she was decisive in killing. She was proficient in demonic arts and frequently transformed grass into soldiers to slaughter the enemy. Of course, such rumors were mostly spread among the people. Cultivators naturally knew that those were not demonic art. Most likely, they were some strange and illusory arts. However, from this, it could be seen that Qin Wushuang was not an ordinary person. Would a woman who led an army to conquer the world obediently return the dynasty to someone else? Ling Xiao did not believe it. However, he could give up on the dynasty. However, how could he give his cousin to someone else? In that case, what did it matter who was sitting on the throne? It seems that I have to quickly clean up the mess in the Great Xia and meet that Empress Wushuang. Ling Xiao raised the corner of his mouth. His eyes were filled with coldness. Ning Tiance was still waiting for his orders in the Cloud Fong city. When the battle in the north started, Emperor Zhou would definitely not let him be trapped in the imperial capital. At that time, he would seize the opportunity to take down the Zhou dynasty. With the Great Xia and Zhou dynasty in his hands, who would dare to oppose him? However, the dragon vein of the Great Xia now, the 9 dragons sky prison formation had 2 dragons as the eyes. Although it could not kill an emperor god, it was enough to resist an attack from an emperor god. The divine emissary of the holy sect must have noticed the traces of the demons in the western border. Ling Xiao was waiting for an opportunity to lure him out. Only then could he investigate the background of the holy sect and the hidden secrets of the holy sect. In the 100,000 mountains of the northern border, in the territory of the 9-tailed fox clan, a black-clothed figure descended from the sky and stood in front of the green hill. Behind her, a burly man with patterns all over his body followed closely. His aura had reached the 9th-grade divine king realm. King Yu, this is where the 9-tailed fox clan is. So, the princess of the heavenly fox clan was once the servant of the divine master of the holy sect. She was banished to the clan 200 years ago and never appeared again? The black-clothed figure frowned slightly. There seemed to be a demon flame flickering in her long and narrow beautiful eyes. That's right. This is not a secret. The entire demon clan of the northern border knows about it. However, the 9-tailed fox clan has always been in seclusion. Not only has the princess never appeared, but the disciples of the clan also rarely appear. Is that so? Send someone to guard this place. If any of the 9-tailed foxes appear, capture them immediately. Yes. In the imperial palace of the great Xia dynasty, Emperor Xia gloomily looked at the many courtiers in front of him. His expression was ugly. He, the great Xia dynasty's prince consort, River Yu, was a demon. There was no way he could hide this fact. Although River Yu escaped with serious injuries, it was a fact that he had killed the second prince of Great Qi. Now, not to mention forming an alliance with Great Qi, the two dynasties would most likely be at war in a few days. Tell me, what should we do about this? Emperor Xia coldly shouted. However, the courtiers in the palace remained silent. Speak as if you are a hammer. He is already dead. You can either give up your territory or kill him. Buzz. Just as the atmosphere in the palace was becoming more and more oppressive, the void suddenly shattered. Ling Zhao's figure flew out and stood above the palace. My lord! Emperor Xia's body trembled. He hurriedly stood up and gave up the throne. My lord, how is it? Can that demon be killed? If River Yu was killed, this matter would be simple. However, if that demon escaped, Great Qi would definitely use this as an excuse to make trouble for him. That demon's aura has already matured. He has many experts by his side. His methods are extremely terrifying. He even developed his natal devil flame. He managed to escape. Ling Xiao fiercely gnashed his teeth. His face was filled with killing intent. What? Emperor Xia's body trembled. He suddenly realized that compared to Great Qi's attack, his lowly life seemed to be more important. Even this heavenly sovereign was unable to kill that demon and his subordinate. Once that demon made a comeback, hiss! My lord! What should we do now? Why are you panicking? Do you still have the dragon talisman I left for you? In a few days, I will leave Great Xia and conquer the world. I will also search for that demon's tracks. However, before that, I will set up some measures here. As long as he dares to come, I will definitely kill him. Ling Xiao coldly shouted. Only then did the panic on Emperor Xia's face dissipate a little. Fortunately, my lord is here. Otherwise, my great Xia would have been destroyed. Chapter 399. Sir, the dragon talisman is here. The Xia Emperor took out a golden dragon talisman from his bosom and respectfully handed it to Ling Xiao. Bring me to the dragon vein of the great Xia. I want to use this spirit vein to set up the ancient 9 dragons' heaven confinement formation. Ling Zhao's expression was calm, but the eyes of Emperor Xia and the others hardened. What a cruel formation! Just the name of the formation sounded impressive. If it could even trap the heavens, why would it be afraid of a demon? Sir, please follow me. Emperor Xia hurriedly led Ling Xiao to a steep mountain in the depths of the palace. Sir, this is the dragon vein of the great Xia. There is a dragon confinement formation set up by our ancestor. Emperor Xia stood at the foot of the mountain and looked at the golden talisman with respect. Oh, you are too narrow-minded. The foundation of the dynasty lies in the people. If the people prosper, the dynasty will prosper. If the dragon is trapped here, how can it protect the world? Ling Zhao's words made Emperor Xia's face change instantly. What the Lord said made a lot of sense. Ever since he was young, his ancestors had taught him that water could carry a boat, but it could also capsize it. If he were to become an emperor in the future, he would have to prioritize the people. The dragon vein was sealed, and could only focus on what was in front of him. How could it be of any use? No wonder Xia Yang's family was wiped out by him. It was because they did not have the protection of the dragon luck. Sir, what should we do? Don't worry. This vein has been trapped for too long. There is no spiritual energy left, only evil energy. I will capture this vein and put it in the ancient dragon vein left by your ancestor, Xia Chen. However, it will take a long time to revive the ancient dragon vein. Ling Xiao waved his hand and the 2 dragon talismans appeared in his hand. At the same time, a terrifying dragon aura suddenly appeared in the sky and suppressed the dragon vein until it showed signs of collapsing. It's the ancient dragon holy aura. Emperor Xia's face changed and his eyes were filled with excitement. He had felt this aura once in the ancestral land of the Xia family. It was a ceremony held when the Xia family's geniuses came of age. The ancient dragon holy aura. The ancient dragon holy aura in the dragon talisman of the great Xia dynasty. Later, I will tear off the golden talisman and take control of this ancient dragon vein. You go and capture that great Xia dragon vein for me. As a deity overlord, Ling Xiao might not be able to capture the dragon vein easily. At that time, if something were to go wrong, it would inevitably arouse the suspicions of the Xia emperor. This idiot Bo Yi had already prostrated himself before him. The reason why Ling Xiao didn't plant a soul imprint on him was because this thief would definitely have a gloomy temperament. Who knew if there were any defensive artifacts in his soul sea? Furthermore, that first prince had yet to appear. From River Feather's memories, Ling Xiao could roughly guess that Xia Feng's template should be the extremely powerful type. Thus, he had no choice but to be cautious. If he was from this realm, it would be fine. However, if he was from the upper realm, his methods would definitely be terrifying. Although the ancient soul assimilation technique was a forbidden technique, who the hell knew if there were any similar techniques in the upper realm? As villains, of course they had to be extremely cautious. Alright. Emperor Xia didn't doubt him. Outside his body, a surge of emperors might surged and turned into a golden radiance. It was as if the shadow of a dragon had materialized above his head. At this moment, Ling Xiao waved his hand and formed a seal in the air. With a palm strike, he tore off the golden talisman from the dragon vein. Boom! In just an instant, the originally deathly still mountain suddenly shattered, letting out an ear-piercing dragon roar. Then, Ling Xiao saw a golden dragon rushing into the sky as if it was trying to escape. Get down! Emperor Xia took a step forward and his figure soared into the sky. The spiritual energy around his body converged into a palm strike and fiercely pressed down on the illusory dragon vein. Boom! The full-powered strike of a fifth-grade god emperor naturally contained the might of heaven and earth. This was especially true in front of this lord from the upper realm. Emperor Xia had even pushed his bloodline's spiritual energy to the limit. 1. The spiritual seal turned into a dragon. This was the famous cultivation technique of the Xia clan, the true dragon divine seal. In midair, the two dragon shadows collided with each other. At this moment, heaven and earth shattered like a mirror, and the space rippled endlessly for thousands of miles. In Dragon Fortune City, everyone looked at the dragon shadow that fell from midair with a strong sense of shock in their eyes. Boom! The great Xia dragon vein fell from midair, and its 300-meter-tall body instantly dimmed. Emperor Xia stood with his hands behind his back. His golden robe fluttered in the wind, and his majesty was unparalleled. Not bad. You should retreat. This sovereign will place the dragon talisman here to evolve the ancient dragon's sacred vein and protect the fate of the great Xia Empire. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Taking advantage of the weakened state of the dragon vein, he directly stored it into his realm. Emperor Xia only bowed and did not say anything. However, the moment he turned around, a glaring trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. F***CK. Acting cool was indeed quite satisfying, but it was easy to die. If he was not wearing the great Xia Empire's true Dragon Dao armor, he was afraid that the attack from the dragon vein would have injured his internal organs. Looking at Emperor Xia, who was leaving in a hurry, Ling Zhao's lips curled into a smile. His figure flashed and disappeared from where he was. Buzz! In the realm, Ling Xiao stood in the void and looked at the third dragon vein that fell into the mountain range with a calm expression. 3 of the 9 veins had been gathered, and the world had been transformed. The originally barren land was now covered with green grass. There were also fish playing in the river and green prawns floating in the water. It was a scene full of vitality. However, what made Ling Xiao slightly disappointed was that after Hua Hua merged with the sacred dragon blood essence, her cultivation had broken through to the 5th grade divine general, but she still could not transform and speak. Of course, the more terrifying the bloodline of a demon beast, the harder it was to transform. Ling Xiao understood this principle. Therefore, this was probably the reason why Hua Hua was still a dragon and not a hot pot. Buzz! With a thought, Ling Xiao appeared on the 3rd floor of the demon-suppressing pagoda. But now, Folded Shadow was in charge of training the death servants, and Wu Nye and Mi Yong had turned into a treasure-hunting team wandering around the eastern border, so this pagoda seemed much more spacious. But it seemed like the 4th floor could be opened? Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes, summoned the golden puppet, and walked toward the entrance of the 4th floor. With his current divine overlord cultivation, ordinary divine kings were nothing to worry about. But this pagoda had a mysterious origin and sealed ancient demons. Who knew what was on the 4th floor? As thousands of ripples appeared on the spiritual array, Ling Xiao stepped out and instantly appeared on the 4th floor. A thunder sun rose above his head, illuminating the entire space as bright as day. But, however, to his surprise, the 4th level was completely empty, and there wasn't a single speck of devilish chi or devilish shadow in the slightest. Another illusion? Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes. One of his eyes turned into a blood moon and the other into night. But even so, the 4th floor was still empty. Could it be that the demonic creature in this pagoda has been completely refined? The item on the 4th floor has been taken away by someone. At this moment, a familiar and crisp voice suddenly came from behind him. Ling Xiao turned and looked at Feng Ling in confusion. Item? What item? Who took it away? I don't know. Back then, I couldn't pass through the 9th floor. I only remember that an unfamiliar aura entered the pagoda and took away the item on the 4th floor. Feng Ling's expression was a little blank, but Ling Xiao was deep in thought. Could it be Yi Fan? That shouldn't be. That guy was just an ant until he died. It was impossible for him to reach the 4th floor. Moreover, although Feng Ling looked like a child, she had personally said that she was already 100 years old. 100 years ago? Could it be the Nine-Tailed Princess who sealed the pagoda in Yi Fan's body? Chapter 400. Feng Ling, what have you been doing all this time? Why haven't you shown yourself? No matter who took the items on the 4th level out of the pagoda, it must have something to do with the mysterious princess of the Nine-Tailed tribe. However, with Ling Xiao's current strength, he naturally could not provoke the royal family of the northern frontier for no reason. Moreover, Yi Fan had died in his hands. Even if Bai Jishi did not say anything, the princess would probably be suspicious now that the pagoda was in Ling Xiao's possession. I don't like the girl beside you. Her aura is too cold. Feng Ling looked deeply at Ling Xiao. I advise you to stay away from her. Qin-chan? You know her? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly, but he was even more puzzled. This girl treated the pagoda as her home, but she felt close to the demonic intent on him. On the other hand, Yi Qin-chan had only comprehended the Tao law of extreme ice. It should not be enough to make Feng Ling feel disgusted, right? Moreover, Nian Qingyun's personality was even colder before, but Feng Ling did not resist her. Could it be because of that innate wisdom? I don't know her. Anyway, I just don't like her. Hurry up and make her leave, or else, Feng Ling clenched her small fists, gritted her teeth, and disappeared on the spot. Qingchan's background is rather interesting. She can actually make this girl feel disgusted. The corners of Ling Xiao's mouth curled up slightly, but a trace of evil flashed across his eyes. Feng Ling probably did not just dislike Yi Qin-chan. Ling Xiao could see a trace of faint fear in her eyes. However, given this girl's strength, she did not even take the God Emperor seriously. How could she be afraid of someone who had broken through to the Paong state? The only answer was the innate wisdom in Yi Qingchan's soul sea. It seemed that he had to find time to have a good talk with Qingchan, an expert that even Feng Ling was afraid of, if he could completely submit to him, if not, haha. Qingchan, do you love me or her? Outside Dragon Fortune City, two figures walked over side by side. One of them was wearing a black python robe. It was the great Xia dynasty's first prince, Xia Feng. The other was a young lady dressed in white. She was Imperial Advisor Qiao Yunli's grandson, Qiao Shuang. In the Grand Xia Empire, there were 7 celestial emperors. However, 3 of them were only at the first or second stage of the celestial emperor realm. Jiang Yan had already been used by Ling Xiao as nourishment for the immemorial Devil Blade. As for the remaining 2, they were both generals and were currently leading troops to guard the border. Among the Emperor God experts in the Imperial City, Emperor Xia was a 5th-grade Emperor God. Imperial Tutor Qiao Yunli was a 6th-stage God Emperor. Count Zhong Yi Si Kong Yu, a 4th-stage God Emperor. Heavenly Official Yanjing, 3rd-stage God Emperor. Although Xia Feng was not the legitimate son of the Empress, among these people, Qiao Shuang was his fiancé. Now that he had given her an ancient Taoist instrument as a betrothal gift, the imperial preceptor would definitely be on his side when they fought for power in the future. With the support of a 6th-grade divine emperor like him, Xia Feng's victory was already in his grasp. Moreover, the son of Count Zhongyi Sikong Hui was Xia Feng's best friend. The two of them often addressed each other as brothers, and this wasn't a secret in Dragon Fortune City. In this way, 2 of the 4 great God Emperors were already Xia Feng's guests. Wouldn't the throne be within his grasp? Moreover, others might not know, but Xia Feng clearly remembered that River Yu would become the Great Qin's emperor in the future and return to the Great Qin Empire. Moreover, although he looked like a good-for-nothing now, his innate talent was actually extremely terrifying. The talent of a pill emperor, the spiritual fire in his body, and the fact that he was a young divine general meant that River Yu's future was limitless. Therefore, all these years, the entire Dragon Fortune City had been ridiculing this abandoned son-in-law of the great Xia dynasty. Only Xia Feng often drank wine and discussed Tao with him, and they seemed to be close friends. Oh, actually, it wasn't that Xia Feng didn't think of snatching River Yu's spiritual fire. However, with his cultivation realm, not to mention whether he could fuse with the spiritual fire, he would probably be burned to ashes if he got too close. How could he dare to take such a risk? However, the spiritual fire was uncontrollable, but it would be much easier for River Yu, who had fused with the spiritual fire, to control it. After all, his parents had died tragically, and his enemies had chased after him. He had been looked down upon and trampled on by others. Give him love. Humph. In my previous life, I rashly went to the immortal realm and died in the hands of that demon. In this life, I must be careful. When the secret realm opens, I will find a few more helpers and make that demon die without a burial place. Xia Feng's eyes were gloomy, but his expression remained calm. However, when he thought of that demon who had concealed his identity and toyed with the entire Xingzhou, he instinctively felt a kind of fear. If it wasn't for the fact that he had died, he would never have thought that that guy was the true demon that the sacred sect had been searching for a long time. Big Brother Feng, what's wrong? As if feeling the coldness emitted from Xia Feng's body, Qiao Shuang frowned slightly and pulled his sleeve somewhat nervously. Oh, Shuanger, I'm fine, just a little tired. Xia Feng shook his head and smiled. His current cultivation was only at the 2nd stage of the divine general realm. Although he was already at the top in the western border, there was still a huge gap between him and that demon. Fortunately, he hadn't lost his memories after his rebirth. The ancient ruins of the immortal realm hidden in the western border were all under his control. Moreover, It was likely that even that true demon didn't know of his existence. The enemy was in the open, while he was in the dark. Although he was sure to win this battle, he still had to be cautious first. Otherwise, with his current strength, if he traveled thousands of miles to the central border and told the sacred sect that the person was a demon, he would probably be killed by that clan's spies before the sacred sect could kill the demon. It was not worth it to trade one for one. Xia Feng clearly remembered that in his previous life, the forces behind that demon were densely packed in the entire Xingzhou. Even in the sacred sect, be cautious, be cautious. The sacred sect was indeed terrifying, but if he wanted to achieve the immortal Tao and ascend to the upper realm, this mountain must be crossed. At this moment, Xia Feng actually had some small calculations in his heart. If he could slay that demon, obtain his inheritance, and then continue to live in seclusion, would he have a chance to take the final step? Since the heavenly Tao had allowed him to be reborn, how could he be restrained in this life? The land of the western border was too small and barren. It could not contain his ambitions as a reborn person. He was originally a person protected by the heavenly Tao, and now he had seized the ninth prince's dragon luck. As long as he was stable, he could map the world. Otherwise, according to the rumors, there were people who went from the prehistoric age to the journey to the west and became saints. Therefore, Xia Feng believed that as long as he was cautious and kept the secret of being reborn, becoming a saint might not be his end. Brother Feng, don't forget what you promised me. Qiao Shuang blushed and lowered her head slightly. Her eyes were filled with the shyness of a young girl. Oh Shuang, don't worry. In a few days, I will go to the Grand Tutor's residence to propose marriage and formally welcome you into the family. Xia Feng smiled gently and looked at Qiao Shuang with deep affection. However, woman, she will only affect my path to becoming a saint. If Qiao Shuang was not the Grand Tutor's grandson, he would not even look at her. Okay. Then Brother Feng, quickly go and give that spiritual herb to the Empress Dowager. I will also return to the residence to rest for a day. Qiao Shuang pursed her red lips and walked toward the city with Xia Feng. However, the moment the two of them entered the city, their expressions froze. At this moment, the streets and alleys of Longyun City were filled with armed guards. The entire imperial city looked like a great enemy was about to arrive. Out of his instinct, Xia Feng felt that things were not simple. Thus, he held Qiao Shuang's hand and walked to the end of an empty alley. He summoned a patrolling Imperial Guard commander and asked, "What happened? Eldest Prince?" The commander's expression changed, and he hurriedly bowed. "Eldest Prince, something big has happened. The prince consort turned into a demon, killed the Qi Kingdom's envoy and Commander Jiang Yan, and raped the fifth princess. Now, his whereabouts are unknown." Chapter 401. What? Xia Feng was stunned for a full 3 breaths before he reacted. There was shock, confusion, and panic on his face. In short, it was a complicated expression. How could this be? That trash River Feather had indeed concealed his cultivation base and identity. However, if Xia Feng remembered correctly, he should be the only son of the late Great Qin Emperor, and he was hiding in Great Xia to avoid being hunted down. 3 years later, his talent awakened and he displayed unparalleled battle prowess. He also received the support of the Great Qin Empire's Guardian General, Xiao Beifa, and returned to the empire to inherit the empire. The reason Xia Feng deliberately befriended him was so that when he became emperor, he would remember his kindness. Of course, as a dog-eared person, Xia Feng naturally couldn't tell this secret to anyone else. Otherwise, how could he show his admiration for River Feather and encourage him as a good big brother? Moreover, once he exposed River Feather's identity, not to mention whether or not he would attract the revenge of the Great Qin Empire's remnants if someone asked him how he knew. How would he explain it? The sacred sect governed the Xingzhou's four borders with benevolence. However, once the secret of him being a reborn person was exposed, would he become a pawn they wanted to control? Or perhaps a treasure-hunting little beast? He was a dog-eared person. However, he didn't want to be a dog. What? The prince consort is actually a demon? Xiao Shuang covered her red lips with her jade-like hand, a look of surprise on her face. Xia Feng, on the other hand, frowned and remained silent. Could it be that, because he was reborn and forcefully seized the ninth prince's fortune, he unintentionally changed the trajectory of the heavenly law? But that idiot River Feather, the fifth princess, was clearly his wife. Why did he have to do something so unnecessary and expose his identity by forcing her? Inexplicably, Xia Feng suddenly felt a trace of uneasiness in his heart. This matter couldn't be so simple. 3 years had passed. Logically speaking, River Feather should have obtained Xiao Beifa's follower. With his status, not to mention the second prince of Great Qi, even the crown prince of Great Qi could be killed if he wanted to. Then why did he have to stir up so much trouble? The spirit fire in his body was indeed a peerless ferocious flame, and it even occupied an extremely high position on the heaven and earth spirit fire list. However, although that fire was crowned with the word demon, it had nothing to do with a true demon. How did River Feather become a demon? Suddenly, Xia Feng thought of a possibility. He even had the urge to turn around and run away. Apart from Jiang Yu's transformation into a demon, is there anything else that happened in Great Xia? A look of contemplation flashed across Xia Feng's eyes. The junior commander pondered for a moment before slapping his forehead. "Pa!" Xia Feng was so frightened that his entire body shivered. He almost channeled his spiritual energy and fled into the horizon. "You scared me." "First Prince, I remember now. It's rumored that an important figure has come to our Great Xia. Even the Emperor has to be respectful when he sees him. Furthermore, it was precisely this lord that protected the princess. Otherwise, that demon River you would have already killed the fifth princess." "What?" Xia Feng's face turned pale in an instant. Even Imperial Father had to bow to him? Could it be that that person had appeared? In Xia Feng's memory, the ancestor of the Xia family, Xia Chen, had indeed descended to this world. However, at that time, Xia Yong was the emperor of the Great Xia dynasty, and the latter had only made use of the ancient dragon vein in the ancestral grounds of the Xia family to achieve a breakthrough in his cultivation before disappearing without a trace. His appearance was extremely short, but it had caused countless changes in the western border. In particular, a marquis of the Qin dynasty had not hesitated to send troops to suppress the Great Xia for 3 years. No one could persuade him otherwise. However, calculating the time, this ancestor seemed to have appeared too early? However, other than him, who else was worthy of Imperial Father's submission? With Xia Sheng's cultivation as a 5th-rank divine emperor, even if that true demon had come, it would not be worthy of his submission. After all, according to Xia Feng's calculations, even if that true demon was slightly stronger than him, he would at most be in the divine general realm. How could he deceive a divine emperor? It seems that my rebirth has indeed changed the timing of some things. Fortunately, those remnants are still there. As long as nothing happens to the Cold Moon's celestial palace, it doesn't matter how much the process has changed. Finally, Xia Feng seemed to have understood something. He brought Xiao Shuang and headed toward the residence of the emperor of the Great Xia dynasty. With Xiao Yunli's cultivation, he had long stopped caring about political affairs. Now, he was in seclusion in the residence all year round, wholeheartedly pursuing the Tao. "Shuang now that the imperial capital is in turmoil, you should wait in the residence at ease. Don't show yourself, and don't go out as you wish." Xia Feng reached out his hand and stroked Xiao Shuang's hair. "Don't make me worry." "Okay. I understand." Shuang will wait for your good news in the residence. Qiao Shuang lowered her head and smiled, her red lips pursed. Go quickly. I haven't seen you for a few days. Your relatives in the residence must be missing you. Xia Feng was in a hurry to return to the imperial palace and see that lord's true appearance. However, he felt inexplicably uneasy. After all, he had swallowed the 9th prince's fortune. If the ancestor questioned him, would he? No, he had to see imperial father first and understand the ancestor's attitude. If he really minded, Xia Feng would immediately leave the city and find an ancient place deep in the mountains. He would not appear until he became a divine emperor. I can't afford to offend you, but can I just hide? As long as I become a divine emperor, who in the Xingzhou can kill me? With that thought in mind, Xia Feng suddenly took out a human skin mask and put it on his face. Then, as if he still felt uneasy, he turned back and found the patrolling Imperial Guard commander. You come here. Who are you? Humph. Xia Feng took out his identity dragon token, and the commander's puzzled expression instantly turned serious. Sir, what orders do you have? The palace's secret order is to send you to Qi dynasty to find a treasure of our dynasty. If you can't find it, you are not allowed to return to meet the emperor. Winky face. That's it? Find a treasure of our dynasty? Then what? You should at least tell me what kind of treasure it is, what it looks like, and what grade it is, right? Qi dynasty was in the far west of Xinjiang. If he went any further west, he would almost reach nirvana. With his cultivation as a second-rank divine general, it would take him a lifetime to get there from Dragon Fortune City. Not to mention, there were countless empires and dynasties in between, and there were endless wars. At this moment, this minor commander of the imperial army, who didn't deserve to have a name, was already suspecting that there was an important person in the palace who didn't like him but was too embarrassed to directly take action, so he used a tactful method to send him to his death. But I'm just a patrolling Imperial Guard. Not to mention that I'm not worth the effort to kill. Even if you want me to die, can't you just give me a quick death? My lord, can I take the liberty to ask, who was the one who sent me to the carriage? What's a secret order? If I tell you, you still call it a secret order? You can go now. Great Xia will take care of your parents and relatives. Xia Feng's eyes turned cold. Usually, these words were not said out of kindness, but a blatant threat. Yes. Xia Feng only felt relieved when that person flew out of the city and disappeared from his sight. He turned around and walked toward the palace. I'm not targeting anyone when it comes to cowardice. Everyone in Xingzhou is. Daddy! I don't dare to refute you. Cowardice, of course, I can't show any arrogance. This is my attitude. As for why he didn't kill the Imperial Guard commander directly? Every Imperial Guard had a soul token that was directly under the Emperor. There was a risk in killing him. Now that he had sent him away and Qiao Shuang was hiding in the residence, no one would know that he was back in the short term. In this way, whether he stayed or fled was completely under his control. Chapter 402. Xia Feng's journey to the Great Xia Imperial Palace was unimpeded. Although he had changed his appearance, the imperial token in his hand could not be faked. As for why a stranger would have such a noble token? Damn. We are just a bunch of guards. How am I supposed to ask such a profound question? Perhaps he was an illegitimate child raised by one of the royal relatives? By the time Xia Feng's footsteps came to a halt, he had already arrived in front of the royal study. But for some reason, he felt that the spirit qi in the Xia palace was exceptionally thin. Was it an illusion? The Great Xia's dragon vein was found by the ancestors of the Great Xia dynasty after hundreds of years of expeditions. It was one of the best in the western border. Especially the dragon trapping array, which gathered the spirit qi of the dragon vein in one place in the Xia palace. Cultivating here could be said to be twice the result with half the effort. But at this moment, who is outside the door? Emperor Xia's voice came from the palace. Xia Feng immediately stopped thinking. He took a deep breath and walked into the palace. Who are you? How dare you trespass into the forbidden area of the imperial palace? Come. Father. It's me. Before Emperor Xia finished speaking, Xia Feng had already removed the mask on his face, revealing his true appearance. Although the father and son had always been in harmony with each other, Xia Feng already had his own method. The fate of the great Xia dynasty was now in his hands. His father would not dare to let him die so easily. Fenger, you are returning to the Xia palace. Why are you hiding your appearance? Emperor Xia was stunned. He increasingly felt that his eldest son was acting strangely. It made him feel uneasy. In the eyes of others, Xia Feng was humble and docile. He was devoted to the Tao. But only Emperor Xia knew that if it were not for his scheming, the great Xia dynasty would not have fallen into his hands. How old was he then? 5 years old? Or 6 years old? Originally, Emperor Xia also felt that this child was destined to be the hope of the great Xia dynasty to unify the western border. But when he really sat on the throne, Xia Xing realized that unifying the western border was a great undertaking. But the prerequisite was, he had to protect his own position. I want to give it to you. The Xia dynasty is yours. If I don't want to give it to you, will you kill your father too? Inexplicably, Emperor Xia began to be wary of his eldest son, who had helped him conquer the world. Imperial father, I've heard about what happened in the palace recently. Xia Feng's eyes were somewhat gloomy, especially when he saw the great figure who had suddenly arrived. He felt a little uneasy. Amen. That bastard River Feather is actually a devil hiding in my Grand Xia. We have heard that you have a very close relationship with him. Emperor Xia coldly glanced at Xia Feng, his tone filled with suspicion. After all, since the establishment of the great Xia dynasty, there had never been anyone who could forcefully seize the fate of others. Moreover, Xia Feng seemed to know the time of the 9th prince's birth in advance. All these illogical things made him terrified. Could it be that he was also imperial father, that lord? What is his background? Xia Feng ignored Emperor Xia's displeasure. In his eyes, his father was nothing more than a yes-man. In his previous life, he only knew how to drink and make merry. Not only did he have no hope of becoming an immortal, he was sent to a border city by Xia Yong and ended his life there. If it wasn't for him devising strategies, how could he sit on the throne of the 9 and 5? Amen? You came back at the right time. Come with me to pay your respects to that lord. In the past few days, that lord used his supreme power to seal the ancient dragon vein of our Xia clan in the Xia palace. Such a great kindness should be engraved on it like incense, and receive the faith of the people. Emperor Xia coldly snorted and walked out of the imperial study. Imperial father is that lord. Ancestor Xia Chen? He took over our dynasty. Behind him, Xia Feng seemed to be hesitating. It was just that he had guessed some things from his father's words. If that lord really cared about the Xia dynasty changing hands, he probably wouldn't be able to see his father now. But since it was crooked Tao, it had to be absolutely safe. Ancestor Xia Chen? Ancestor is just a dog in the hands of that lord. Do you understand? We are all grandsons raised by that lord. When you see that lord later, remember not to speak carelessly. Be humble and always pay attention to your status. Emperor Xia turned his head and fiercely glared at Xia Feng. The latter's expression instantly became sluggish. This can't be. The plot shouldn't have developed like this. In his previous life, the only person who had descended to the Xia dynasty was the reincarnation of ancestor Xia Chen. When had there ever been an ancestor's master? Inexplicably, Xia Feng wanted to leave the palace now. Fenger? What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and follow me. Emperor Xia reached out and grabbed Xia Feng's shoulder, leading him to the back of the palace. He intended to let that celestial venerable take a look at whether this eldest son was a demon or not. Of course, if he wasn't, with Xia Feng's talent, he was indeed the hope of the Xia clan. If he was fortunate enough to become that lord's servant, it would be a blessing for the Xia dynasty. Imperial Father, I just returned to the palace today. If I go rashly, Lord's magnanimity is like the surging sea. Why would he care about such trivial matters? Cut the crap and follow me. When the two arrived at the mountain in the back of the palace where the dragon vein was sealed, their eyes hardened fiercely. At the peak of the mountain, a golden sun was blooming with divine light, faintly emitting a vast and boundless aura. In the golden sun, a figure was quietly sitting cross-legged. Although his appearance couldn't be seen clearly, he exuded supreme majesty. Greetings, my lord. Emperor Xia's eyes were filled with joy. Although he didn't feel any dragon qi emanating from the golden sun, he could tell at a glance that it was no ordinary object. It was obvious that the ancient dragon vein had yet to awaken, but its form was already visible. It wouldn't be long before the great Xia dynasty's fortune skyrocketed, and they would strive for the western border. Greetings, my lord. Xia Feng also bowed with a humble expression, but his eyes were filled with a hint of surprise. If it wasn't the ancestor or that demon, who could it be? He remembered very clearly that the demon cultivated the myriad demonic arts, and his methods were extremely cruel. Even the aura around him was cold and eerie. However, although the person in front of him didn't emit any spiritual energy, the aura he exuded was definitely not something that the despicable demon could compare to. It was like a god looking down at ants. Just a glance from him was enough to make people panic. In his previous life, Xia Feng remembered that the reason why the demon could conceal his forbidden identity was related to the demonic arts he cultivated. It was also related to his usual flamboyant personality. If he was too arrogant, he would attract too much attention, and it would make people let down their guard. However, the lord in front of him was sitting on the mountain peak like an ancient boulder, eternally eternal, and his sharpness restrained. His every movement was indifferent, as if he had existed for countless years. At this moment, Xia Feng suddenly believed that this person might really be from the upper realm. However, why would such a person come to the great Xia dynasty? What exactly was he plotting? That's right. This person has the root of wisdom. I have high hopes for him, Ling Xiao said indifferently, and a cold smile appeared on his face that was covered by immortal clouds. 5,000 points of fate, Golden Taoist Law, second-grade Divine General. Logically speaking, a person who had comprehended such a Taoist law should be unparalleled. However, looking at Xia Feng's eyes, why did it feel like he was a little cowardly? That seemingly gentle but actually gloomy gaze was extremely similar to a snake or scorpion hidden in the wilderness. Interesting. How can I make him unleash the most scorching light? Chapter 403. You mean? Emperor Xia was stunned and his eyes were filled with joy. Is Feng really going to become the pride of the Xia family? Now that the demons are everywhere in the great Xia dynasty and the situation in the western border is getting more and more unstable, if the Xia family wants to stand firm in this era of great competition, we must work hard to strengthen ourselves. Ling Zhao's voice was filled with divine power and resounded in Xia Feng's ears like a bell, shaking his mind. Nonsense. Xia Feng was a divine general. Although his fortune was terrifying, his talent was unparalleled, and he had reincarnated. But he was still a divine general. Ling Zhao's divine soul was already comparable to a third-grade divine emperor. With the protection of the ancient Panga stone and the Ghost clan's soul-sucking pearl, even a fifth-grade divine emperor like Emperor Xia would be shocked. Step aside, I have something to say to Feng Er. Ling Xiao glanced at Emperor Xia and the latter immediately bowed and stepped back. He only stopped when he was 100 feet away and covered his ears with his hands, as if to tell Ling Xiao that he did not dare to eavesdrop. Idiot Bo-e, don't you know that there is a kind of conversation called consciousness communication? This is a stalk of immortal gold that I brought from the upper realm. Since you and I are connected by fate, I will bestow upon you a heaven-reaching good fortune. Carry this gold in your heart meridian, and it will protect your Tao of metal. Ling Xiao sneered and waved his hand. The Emperor Vane's gold spirit instantly turned into a ray of light and landed in front of Xia Feng. That's right. This spirit gold was the one that Ling Xiao tricked from Zhou Minyao. It was also the fortune that the great Xia True Demon stole from the great Zhou princess when he killed her. However, for such a divine item, even the experts of the great Zhou Empire had only heard of its name and had never seen it before. Now that Ling Xiao casually gave it a different name and gave it to Xia Feng, he naturally would not be able to guess its origin. Someone had to carry the identity of the true demon. River Feather carried it, but he was not a member of the royal family of the great Xia dynasty and could not use the true dragon divine seal. Even if he could fool the world for a short period of time, his lies would be exposed after a long time. At this time, it is time for our first prince to play his role. For someone like this who had been reborn and had high luck, it would take more than a day or two to completely kill him. Moreover, with the memories of his 2 lifetimes, he might not be unaware of his true identity. Therefore, he had to first bestow him with an identity that was not tolerated by the world. That way, he would be able to force others to reveal who was the devil, as if I'd believe you. You're a devil yourself, and you want someone else to take the blame. F***ck. Moreover, the timing of Xia Feng's absence from the imperial capital was perfect. So, what exactly did he do in the past few days? Xiao Shuang? The name was pretty good, but he didn't know if the name of his body was as good. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. The look of shock on Xia Feng's face gave him an indescribable sense of joy. Natal Metal Dao, to be honest, Xia Feng was dumbfounded. As a reincarnator who believed in unscrupulous ways, he had never liked to show off his strength in front of outsiders. The reason why he revealed his divine champion cultivation was to gain some weight in his father's heart so that he could exchange for more cultivation resources. He couldn't be too outstanding, but he couldn't be mediocre. However, he had rarely acted pretentiously in the past few years because his identity didn't allow it. The Empress, the second prince, and the third prince had always regarded him as a thorn in their side and wanted to humiliate him whenever they had the chance. His father was also very wary of him. Once he was too outstanding, he would easily be injured. Therefore, in the entire Great Xia, the only person who knew that he had comprehended the pure metal Dao law was probably the son of Count Zhenyuan, Sikong Hui. He had no choice. Brothers had to be honest with each other. If he told Sikong Hui some insignificant secrets, Sikong Hui would of course feel that he trusted him completely. Oh no, I'm the son of destiny. How could I be so calculative? I just felt that Sikong Hui was an upright, forthright, and trustworthy person, so I told him my secrets. However, how did this lord know that I had comprehended the Tao law at a glance? This was his greatest trump card. It was used to turn the tables and show off. As expected, this lord's cultivation level had probably exceeded the knowledge of the Xingzhou. He didn't seem to have any secrets in front of him. Plop! Xia Feng fell to his knees in a daze and shouted loudly, "Thank you for your blessing, my lord. Get up. In the next few days, the great Xia's dragon blessing is at the critical moment of recovery. I calculated that there will be more demons coming. You should be prepared. You must carry the immortal gold with you. It may save your life at a critical moment." Ling Xiao closed his eyes and said in a calm voice, "Yes, my lord. Xia Feng prostrated himself on the ground and retreated 100 feet before getting up and leaving. Looking at the thin and tall figure, the corners of Ling Zhao's mouth curled up into a smile. The reborn son of destiny had stolen the blessing of another son of destiny. This leek was indeed very fragrant. However, to steal all 5,000 blessings, there was still a long way to go. In the first prince's residence in the great Xia imperial city, it was quiet and bleak. Xia Feng's legal mother had died in childbirth. It was in line with the pattern of the son of destiny either having a dead father or a missing mother. Therefore, when he was very young, he moved out of the palace and lived alone. Moreover, this first prince had never been involved in political affairs and only focused on pursuing the Tao. Therefore, he did not have many followers and no one was willing to support him. The first prince is back. Xia Feng returned to his palace and took out the immortal gold that Ling Xiao had given him. After studying it carefully for a long time, he finally concluded. This was an immortal item. Wearing it on his body, he actually felt like it was full of vitality and spiritual energy, as expected of an item from the upper realm. Could it be because he had stolen the ninth prince's blessings that he had obtained such an opportunity? Yes, the concept of blessings was mysterious and unfathomable. The more blessings one had, the more opportunities one would obtain. If this life was the same as the previous one, wouldn't his blessings be in vain? It seemed that he had worried too much. However, with such a strong person here, it was easy for unforeseen events to happen. For the next few days, Xia Feng decided to stay in the palace obediently and not go anywhere. When the ancient dragon vein had completely recovered and this lord had left, it would be time for him to show his strength. No, even if the Lord has left, I must keep a low profile and plan step by step. Otherwise, if I take too big of a step, it would be too easy to pull down. Wouldn't it be better to stay low and do things step by step? First, I will control the great Xia dynasty in my hands and then plot against the Cold Moon Celestial Palace. When I have enough strength to fight against that demon, I can go anywhere in the Xingzhou continent. Anyway, in this life, I want to reach the top of the world and achieve unparalleled success. Even if someone scolds me for staying low, who cares if I win in the end? In his previous life, although he had died, it was not because he had offended that demon, but because he had obtained the demon's inheritance in the secret realm by chance and was targeted by that demon. Otherwise, we are all from the western border. Why do you think I am so outstanding and know how to steal other people's blessings? If that demon's seal had not been limited and had to be set up at the moment of birth, otherwise, as long as I stay behind the scenes and plant a few more fated people, there would be an endless stream of blessings for me to steal. It might not be impossible for me to stay low until I reach the Supreme Being stage. At the same time, in the great Xia dynasty's palace, Emperor Xia looked up at Ling Xiao with a face full of fear. Lord, do you mean my son, Xia Feng, is the true demon? At this moment, Emperor Xia's eyes were filled with fear and shock, but more than that, there was an inexplicable complexity. Chapter 404. That's right. Ling Xiao nodded, his eyes revealing a dignified look. Hearing this, Emperor Xia's body trembled, instinctively feeling somewhat afraid. Xia Feng was a devil. Regarding this explanation, he had actually expected it long ago. Before the age of 6, his talent was mediocre. Although he could cultivate, he was not outstanding. But after the age of 6, Xia Feng seemed to have become a different person. He understood the heavenly arts, seized Xia Chuan's luck, and used meticulous methods to steal the country of Great Xia. Even he had never seen such an evil secret technique before. Where did Xia Feng, a mere child whose hair was not even fully tied, learn it from? Moreover, although Xia Feng did not reveal himself in these few years, his realm breakthrough was extremely fast, and he was also in close contact with that trash, River Feather. How could a trash with no background and no cultivation be worth his scheming? So it turned out. They were originally in cahoots. Emperor Xia had already sent people to secretly investigate the matter of a devil appearing in Great Zhou. After all, River Feather was a devil, but he had never walked out of Dragon Fortune City. Originally, Emperor Xia thought that the devil that appeared in Great Zhou was most likely River Feather's accomplice. But who would have thought that just yesterday, he received an incomparably shocking news. The devil that appeared in Great Zhou actually used the true dragon divine seal at the moment of his death. This ancient technique was a secret technique of Great Xia's royal family, and it was absolutely impossible for it to be spread outside. And during this period of time, other than Xia Yong's lineage, there was only Xia Feng of Great Xia's royal family, who was not in Dragon Fortune City. But Xia Yong was already dead. Beep, the son of destiny is suspected by his close relatives. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. At first, I also did not dare to believe it, but I did not expect that a true devil would appear in your lineage. I'm afraid that this person is no longer Xia Feng, but a true devil's possession. Has this person done anything strange in recent years? Ling Zhao's tone seemed to be regretful, and even a little angry. Seeing this, Emperor Xia directly knelt on the ground with a plop. Sir, I have long sensed that something is wrong with this Xia Feng, but I really did not expect that he is a true devil. It's fine. Since he dares to come back, I naturally will not let him off easily. However, since he dares to appear in front of me so openly with his cultivation level, he must have a trump card in his hand. Or perhaps he has accomplices in the imperial court. Ling Zhao's eyes narrowed as he fell into deep thought. The Xia Emperor's face was deathly pale. F***ck. Who would have thought that for the past 20 years, I have been living in an abyss of suffering? If it wasn't for this lord's arrival in Great Xia, he was afraid that if Xia Feng was given a few more years to grow, he would definitely lose both his throne and his life. But, for some inexplicable reason, the Xia Emperor still had a hint of doubt in his heart. Wasn't this all too much of a coincidence? Moreover, Xia Feng said that he was going out of the palace to gain experience. He even brought Xiao Shuang, the granddaughter of the imperial preceptor. Could it be that the two of them and the state preceptor were in cahoots? My lord. Xia Feng left the palace with Xiao Shuang. Here it comes. Ling Xiao sneered inwardly. How could he not know that Xia Feng had left the palace with Xiao Shuang? Furthermore, given the latter's status, it was only natural that Xia Feng would try to rope him in. As a woman, what she liked was nothing more than a spiritual treasure's status or handsome looks. With Xia Feng's qualities, he was more than enough for her. However, if he wanted her to be hell-bent on him, he would have to put in some effort. If Ling Zhao's guess was correct, the two of them should have gone to a secret realm and found treasures there. However, Ling Xiao had already met Xia Feng. At first glance, he could tell that Xia Feng was a gloomy and cautious person. He would never expose his secret to Xiao Shuang. It was also impossible for him to give the greatest fortune to someone else. As a person who had been reborn, what he valued was definitely not love but cultivation. In other words, the greatest fortune in that secret realm must have fallen into Xia Feng's hands. It was just that Xiao Shuang didn't know about it. In this way, Xia Feng would have the time to go to the Great Zhou dynasty to kill people. Even if Ling Xiao had miscalculated this point. Naturally, he had 10,000 excuses to put the blame on Xia Feng. The two of them couldn't be together 24 hours a day, right? Moreover, did you think that what you saw was real? How could a weak woman imagine the means of a true demon? Sister, you're too naive. Quick, come into my embrace. I'll give you true warmth. Secretly send her into the palace. It's best if no one disturbs her. Ling Zhao's tone was inexplicably gloomy. Emperor Xia immediately revealed a look of understanding and turned to walk out of the hall. Soon, when Emperor Xia walked back into the hall, a young girl in white followed closely behind him. There seemed to be a trace of nervousness between her eyebrows. However, what made Ling Xiao slightly disappointed was that this beauty of the great Xia dynasty, who was as famous as Xia Yanran, did not have any luck on her. As for her appearance, she was comparable to Xia Yanran. "You're Qiao Shuang." Ling Zhao's face was covered by a divine glow. His tone was low and eternal. Seeing the humble Emperor Xia standing by the side, a trace of fear flashed past Qiao Shuang's pretty face. "Yes, sir." "Let me ask you, where did you and Xia Feng go after leaving the palace?" Ling Zhao's eyes flickered. It was obvious that he had made a decision in his heart. "We went to the Sword Halberd Mountain at the border of the great Xia dynasty." "What did you do?" "Brother Feng brought me to a secret realm and found a Dao artifact." From Emperor Xia's attitude, Qiao Shuang could also understand that the identity of the person before her was definitely extremely terrifying. It should be that great figure that had been in an uproar in Dragon Fortune City recently. Although no one knew of Ling Zhao's identity, Ling Xiao was in the limelight during the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet that day and awed everyone. Anyone with half a brain would be able to guess that this person definitely had a great background. "The two of you have always been together?" "No. No, we were only together during the day. Moreover, Brother Feng went out for a night in the secret realm. He said he was going to get an immortal herb for the Empress Dowager." Although Qiao Shuang had doubts in her heart, she naturally did not dare to lie in front of such a person. She immediately answered everything she knew. "That's right." Emperor Xia and Ling Xiao looked at each other. A trace of coldness flashed in the depths of their eyes. "Did you notice anything unusual about Xia Feng? For example, he seems to be hiding something, or he can predict what will happen." Ling Xiao guided her step by step. Since he knew the model of Xia Feng, he naturally knew this kind of child of destiny's tricks like the back of his hand. It was nothing more than carrying the memories of his previous life and taking advantage of the opportunities before the various secret realms and relics opened. Then, step by step, he would walk to the peak of the world and take revenge for the person who killed him in his previous life. A person who was reborn like this naturally could not have died of old age. It was most likely that he was brutally killed by someone. That was why he had such a strong obsession and was detected by the heavenly Tao. It was just that no one knew who killed him in his previous life. Of course, no matter who it was, this Xia Feng naturally could not escape from Ling Zhao's grasp. Such a sinister person with terrifying providence. If he was allowed to develop, he would most likely grow into an overlord. The child of destiny and the villain demon king were born to oppose each other. Was this reason enough to kill him? Sir, did Brother Feng do something wrong? A trace of hesitation flashed across Qiao Shuang's pretty face. She was Xia Feng's fiancée. When she saw Emperor Xia's gloomy expression, she instinctively felt uneasy. "He is a demon. Right now, he is merely using you to absolve himself. You better tell me everything you know. Otherwise, I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to escape from his grasp." "What? This is impossible." "How could Brother Feng?" Qiao Shuang's delicate body trembled slightly. Ling Xiao, however, frowned somewhat impatiently. Then, he glanced at Emperor Xia. The latter immediately understood. He turned around and walked out of the great hall. Chapter 405. See, my lord, did you make a mistake? Xia Feng had just promised to go to the imperial preceptor's residence to propose marriage and marry Qiao Shuang. Originally, Qiao Shuang thought that with her grandfather's support, Xia Feng would at least become a strong competitor for the position of crown prince, even though he would not reach the heavens in a single bound. With his talent, even if he missed out on the throne, he would still be a person standing at the peak of the world. But why did her husband suddenly become a demon? Made a mistake? Ling Xiao lifted his foot and walked down from the throne. He stood in front of Qiao Shuang and said, "Now that you mention it, I suddenly feel that I might have made a mistake." Ling Xiao extended his hand and gently stroked Qiao Shuang's face. "Relax, don't be nervous. Regardless of whether he is a demon or not, I will not harm you." "Thank you, my lord." Qiao Shuang's face was slightly red. She slowly lowered her head and there was some panic between her brows. My lord's hand was slightly cold. When he touched her face, she felt a little numb. But she was already a married woman. But with my lord's identity, if he really wanted to do something, how should she refuse? Would refusing bring about a calamity to the imperial preceptor's residence? "You look pretty good." Ling Xiao pinched Qiao Shuang's chin and raised her face. Their eyes met. Qiao Shuang could only see waves rising from the deep sea. There seemed to be a black moon rising on the sea. Immediately after, a terrifying buzzing sound came from her soul sea. "You are indeed protected by a Dharma artifact." Ling Zhao's eyes narrowed and turned blood-red. Qiao Shuang's eyes that had just regained their clarity instantly fell into a daze. "A mere divine artifact dares to stop me?" In front of Qiao Shuang's soul palace, Ling Zhao's divine soul appeared. Demonic radiance surged around his body. The soul light in his hand condensed and turned into a huge seal. Then, he smashed it toward the cyan light above. Clang! Qiao Shuang's body trembled violently. A trace of blood instantly flowed out from the corner of her mouth. At the same time, countless cracks suddenly appeared on the clear light that was protecting her soul sea. Ling Zhao's lips curled into a cold arc. "Do you know what to do now?" "Yes, master." Qiao Shuang pursed her red lips tightly. There was fear in her eyes, but in the end, she was driven out of the palace by an unknown force. "My lord, are we letting her go just like that?" It was not until Qiao Shuang walked out of the Xia palace that Emperor Xia walked into the hall. "What else? Xia Feng is a demon, but we aren't. This Qiao Shuang obviously doesn't know much, so let her be. I've already erased her memories, so this matter cannot be exposed." Ling Xiao looked at the Xia Emperor somewhat playfully. "There's a true demon in the Xia palace. If word of this were to spread, given your current status, I'm afraid that there would definitely be people who would take this opportunity to slay that true demon." Sir? What should we do?" To tell the truth, the Xia Emperor was in a state of panic right now. In the first place, he had stolen the throne. If someone found the opportunity, his throne, no. Even his life would be in danger. Especially for the Saint sect, they would rather kill the wrong true demon than let it go. "What? You say your son is a devil and you don't know? Do you believe that yourself?" "Sigh, I didn't want to be tainted by the karma of this world, but seeing how loyal your ancestor Xiachen is, I'll reluctantly take you in as a slave." Ling Xiao seemed to be in a difficult position. Hearing this, the Xia Emperor's eyes narrowed, and his body trembled slightly from excitement. Finally, the day had finally come. With this lord's status, once he took him in as a slave, the peak of the Xingzhou would no longer be the end of his immortal path. The Xia clan's eternal ambition, the unification of the Shijiang, the ascension of the heavenly venerate to the upper realm, and the ascension of the Xia clan to stand shoulder to shoulder with their ancestors. If the younger generation mentions my name again, they will revere me as their ancestor. What did people live for? What was the purpose of cultivating and seeking the Tao? Suddenly, Xia Xing felt that his life had been sublimated. In the future, there will be a legend of me in the Shijiang. The Saint sect? Haha, with my master here, the Saint sect is nothing. Be my slave, you, my lord. I understand. The Xia Emperor opened his arms and relaxed his mind, as if he was at his mercy. In the past few days, he had been shocked by Ling Zhao's methods. For someone who had opened up a world and evolved Tao laws, becoming a slave was a supreme honor. "You're not bad." Ling Xiao smiled faintly and did not enter the Xia Emperor's soul sea to form a seal. Since the Xia Emperor had such awareness, there was no need for him to hide and take the risk. A wisp of soul light flickered in the sky, forming a seal out of thin air and falling into the Xia Emperor's soul sea. Until the seal disappeared, the Xia Emperor's face was still filled with excitement and satisfaction. "This is the feeling. Heavenly fortune. Heavenly fortune. Milord. I can't repay your kindness with words. This is the military seal of the great Xia dynasty and the key to the national treasury. I hope you can accept it for the sake of this slave's sincerity." Ling Xiao nodded and waved his hand. The two items in the Xia Emperor's hands instantly disappeared. He was already clear about Xia Feng's identity. The memories of 2 lifetimes and the same physical body, which was the legendary rebirth. However, if the immortal king was reborn, he would not be so cowardly in this lower realm. Obviously, this Xia Feng should be from this realm. It seemed that he had to find some time to test him. After all, it was better not to expose his identity as the Sky Demon too early. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. During this period, Xia Feng also wanted to visit his 5th sister, Xia Yanran. After all, they were not the Empress's children and had some feelings for each other. However, when he thought of the current situation in the great Xia dynasty, he finally dismissed this idea. After all, Jiang Yu had turned into a demon and escaped, and Xia Yanran was not of much use. Why should he let himself get involved in this whirlpool? On the 4th day, the entire Longyan city suddenly became lively. The son of Zhenyuan's Count Zhongyi, Sikong Hui, guarded the border for 3 years and made countless contributions. Today, he returned to the imperial court to receive his title. At the same time, many rumors suddenly spread in the imperial capital. It was said that Sikong Hui loved Xiao Shuang and that the two of them were childhood sweethearts. Originally, they were a match made in heaven, and the previous emperor, Xia Yong, thought highly of their marriage. Unfortunately, it ended because Xia Sheng stole the imperial court. Later, as the Grand Tutor's grandson, Xia Feng took a fancy to Xiao Shuang and set the engagement. Although Sikong Hui was on good terms with Xia Feng, there was a scar in his heart. The reason why he went to the border was actually to heal his heart. Of course, these rumors were half true and half false. Sikong Hui and Xiao Shuang did grow up together, but they called each other brother and sister. As for whether the two of them liked each other or not, probably they liked each other. After all, brother and sister were not related by blood. Wasn't it just a good impression? Ling Xiao thought so, so he ordered Xiao Shuang to spread the rumors. "I'm not deliberately instigating it. I just want the lovers to get married. Brother Hui." At the city gate, Xiao Shuang was dressed in white and looked as delicate as a lotus. Today, she had put on some makeup, which added a bit of charm to her already beautiful face. Beside her, Xia Feng stood calmly without any resentment on his face. The people were all making groundless accusations. Now that Sikong Hui returned to the imperial court to receive his title, it was inevitable that he would be hated by others. Therefore, those rumors must have been spread by some people in the imperial court who saw Xia Feng as an enemy. Xia Feng even guessed that it was most likely the second prince and the third prince's doing. However, he and Sikong Hui had fought side by side on the battlefield. How could this friendship be destroyed by rumors? Moreover, Xiao Shuang was just a pawn in his eyes. How could a daughter of an aristocratic family be his wife? The person he really liked was indeed in the Shijiang, but not in the great Xia. Shuang eldest prince. On the ancient road in the distance, a general in silver armor was valiant and heroic. Behind him were thousands of personal guards. When he saw the two people standing at the city gate, the general urged his horse forward, his eyes filled with joy. "You're finally back." Sikong Hui jumped down from his horse and hugged Xia Feng tightly. However, when he looked at Xiao Shuang, there was a touch of gentleness in his eyes. "Shuang-er, oh no, you should call her sister-in-law." Sikong Hui shook his head and smiled bitterly. Although he had not been in the imperial capital for 3 years, he knew everything that happened there like the back of his hand. In particular, in recent years, the news of Qiao Shuang and Xia Feng's marriage had been the talk of the town. He was not jealous at all because he really saw Xia Feng as an elder brother. His father had once said that the dragon protector would be respected by the world. As the son of Sikong's first wife, he had the awareness and ambition to do so. Moreover, Qiao Shuang was his younger sister. How could he not know that she had never liked him? Chapter 406. You came back at the right time. I'm going to the Grand Tutor's house to propose marriage. Xia Feng smiled and patted Sikong Hun's shoulder. Brother Hun, you have to come with me on the day of the wedding. Big brother, what are you talking about? This is what I should do. The three of them turned and walked toward the imperial city. On both sides of the ancient street, countless people of the great Xia dynasty applauded and cheered. Sikong Hun, who was in the middle of Xia Feng and Qiao Shuang's embrace, attracted the attention of countless people. Don't you think General Sikong and Miss Shuang are more compatible? You don't want to live anymore. If the first prince hears this, your entire family will be exterminated. How can that be? The first prince is gentle by nature. How can he vent his anger on me because of a joke? I hope the three of them can be as intimate as they are now. Yes. Then the great Xia dynasty will prosper. Ha! Sikong Hun shook his head and smiled. He turned to Xia Feng and said, Big brother, you don't mind, do you? Of course not. I see you as my brother, and Shuang-er is your sister-in-law. It's true that they are intimate. Xia Feng smiled faintly, his eyes clear. Beside Sikong Hun, Qiao Shuang lowered her head shyly. Xia Feng didn't stop until the three of them arrived at the Count of Zhenyuan's residence. Brother Hun, you must be promoted when you return to the capital this time. Go back to your residence and rest first. Father has instructed us to arrange a banquet and invite the young masters of the various clans to celebrate with you. Okay. Big brother. Then I'll go pay my respects to Father first. We won't go home until we're drunk tonight. Sikong Hun bowed. At this moment, Qiao Shuang suddenly pursed her red lips and said, Brother Feng, I haven't seen Uncle Sikong for a long time. Brother Hun and I will go pay our respects to him. You don't mind, do you? I don't mind. Of course I don't mind. Then come to the Cloudy Dream Immortal House with Brother Hun tonight. Xia Feng chuckled and turned to leave. From beginning to end, there was no trace of gloominess on his face. It seemed that he really didn't mind Qiao Shuang and Sikong Hun being intimate. In the realm, Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows. Did Xia Feng really have a flawless Dao heart, or did he not fall in love with Qiao Shuang? Didn't he know that there was something more delicious than dumplings in this world? Your daughter-in-law has already gone to someone else's home. How can you still remain so calm? Interesting. Looks like I have to give you something exciting. But before that, Ling Xiao still felt that he should test him to see if he knew the secret of his demon body in his previous life. Shuang-er. It wasn't until Xia Feng was far away that Sikong Hui smiled gently and reached out to rub Qiao Shuang's black hair out of habit. It's been 3 years since we last met, and you've already grown into a big girl. Brother Hun, you can't touch me like this anymore. Otherwise, if others see it, it'll be easy to misunderstand. At that time, Qiao Shuang's face was flushed red. She looked like she wanted to hide but couldn't bear to. Oh, I forgot that you are now my sister-in-law. Sikong Hui laughed bitterly as he withdrew his hand, and his expression was slightly dejected. Although Xia Xing's lineage was a prince, He didn't dare to get too close to the imperial advisor's residence in case Xia Yong became suspicious. Therefore, the one who was really close to Qiao Shuang when she was young was indeed Xikong Hui. But at that time, the Xikong clan wasn't in a high position and Qiao Yunli was already the imperial advisor. In his heart, Xikong Hui felt that he wasn't good enough for Qiao Shuang. But now, the new emperor had ascended the throne, and the Xikong clan had become the prosperous clan of the great Xia dynasty because of the great merit of protecting the dragon. The beauty was still there, and he was successful and famous, but he couldn't express his deep love. She actually became his sister-in-law. F***ck. But now, Xikong Hui was relieved. Xia Feng was upright, low-key, and talented. He was better than Xikong Hui in all aspects. Shuang was worth it. Sister-in-law? Brother Hun, do you really think so? The corners of Qiao Shuang's mouth seemed to be a little sad. Xikong Hui's silent heart suddenly rippled inexplicably. Recently, the news that you returned to the imperial capital to receive a title has spread. Many people with ulterior motives have started to spread rumors that you chose to go to the border because you were hurt in your heart. They said that you've always been interested in me. Is it true? Qiao Shuang clenched her silver teeth and rubbed the corner of her clothes uneasily. She looked nervous. Nonsense. This is simply a rumor. Who said it? I'll kill his whole family. You see yourself as a younger sister and the eldest prince as a brother. I'm happy that you two are married. How can I be sad? Xikong Hui was very agitated and his voice was full of anger. Qiao Shuang just looked at him calmly. Finally, she smiled and nodded. But the sadness in her eyes made Xikong Hui's heart tremble again. What's wrong with Shuang today? Why is she happy one moment and sad the next? Also, did I say something wrong? Why is there loneliness and bitterness in her eyes? Brother Hun, I hope you can find a true match. In the end, Qiao Shuang didn't say anything. She looked sad and walked out of the residence. Shuang? The more Xikong Hui called, the faster Qiao Shuang walked. In the end, she covered her red lips with one hand and ran away. Shuang, how could it be? What was a true match? What's wrong with Shuang? Could it be that Xia Feng didn't treat her well? Hun, you're back. Suddenly, a cheer came from the hall in the distance. Then, a majestic emperor's aura spread. Count Zhongyi, Xikong Yu, flew over from the void and looked at the young man in front of him with relief. Is Hun unhappy? But when he saw the gloominess in Xikong Hui's eyes, this important minister of the great Xia suddenly frowned. Father, I'm back. Xikong Hui bowed. Xikong Yu waved his hand and a ray of spiritual light fell, enveloping the entire residence. Hun, can you tell me now? Father, what do you think of the eldest prince? After all, Xikong Hui hadn't returned to the imperial capital for 3 years. Back then, he and Xia Feng met on the battlefield and killed enemies together. After experiencing life and death, they became close friends. But if he really betrayed Qiao Shuang, he naturally wouldn't allow it. The eldest prince? Xia Feng? Xikong Hui's eyes darkened. His body unconsciously emitted a wisp of great power, like a surging river and sea, intimidating the heavens. This boy has an extremely deep temperament. I think that the great Xia will eventually fall into his hands. Hun, I know that the two of you have a deep friendship, but as an emperor, how can he be sincere to you? He's just coveting the current status of the Xikong family. Xikong Yu looked deeply at the young man in front of him and patted his shoulder gently. My son is still young. You don't have to think about some things for the time being. Xia Feng took the initiative to befriend you, which proves that the Xikong family is powerful. As long as we are strong enough, we don't have to fear the imperial family. Father, do you mean that Xia Feng wants to use the power of the Xikong family to ascend the throne? Inexplicably, Xikong Hui suddenly had a trace of complex emotions in his heart. Otherwise, why do you think he ran thousands of miles to the border and appeared in your army so coincidentally? When you joined the army, I spent a lot of effort to keep this a secret so that the emperor could see your talent. Sikong Hui sneered. He had been an official for 100 years. How could he not see through the schemes of the emperor? As an emperor, he studied the way of controlling people. As an official, he naturally studied the way of dealing with people. This was the difference between the imperial court and the sect. Strength was indeed the foundation of standing at the top. However, if one wanted to achieve eternal hegemony in the imperial court, one had to understand people's hearts. Father, what if I don't want Xia Feng to be the crown prince? Sikong Hui's eyes suddenly had a trace of coldness. Chapter 407. Hunter, what did you say? Sikong Yu frowned and looked at Sikong Hui in disbelief. Hunter, you have to know that the two sons of the Empress are extremely powerful in the imperial court. You have a close relationship with Xia Feng, and it's no longer a secret in the imperial capital. It's not a wise move for you to join a new master now. Moreover, if Xia Feng gets the help of the Grand Tutor, I'm afraid he'll become the crown prince. Haha, father, I'm just asking casually. Sikong Hui nodded and smiled, which made Count Zhongyi's expression soften a little. How could he not know that to the Sikong clan, helping Xia Feng to become the emperor would be a great merit? No matter how strong the Sikong clan was, they were still below the imperial power. Especially now, Xia Xing's lineage had stolen the country and had no foundation to speak of. If the Sikong clan could help Xia Feng become the emperor, they would become the foundation in the latter's hands. They couldn't scheme for the world, but the title of the number one family under the imperial power was enough for the Sikong clan to prosper for hundreds of years. You've just returned. Recently, there have been a lot of big things happening in the imperial capital. There's even news from the palace that a big shot has come, but his identity is extremely mysterious. You must not provoke him. Otherwise, the Sikong clan will be annihilated. Sikong Yu instructed before removing the spirit veil on top of the estate, and then he walked towards the hall. Big shot. Sikong Hui raised his brows slightly. Could it be that someone who could be called a big shot by his father is from the middle border? At night, in front of a magnificent ancient building in the east of Dragon Fortune City, countless geniuses from aristocratic families and the sons of important officials gathered in front of the building with respectful expressions and excited eyes. Many of the people in the surrounding city were shocked when they saw this scene. To be able to make these domineering young masters bow so humbly, it must be a prince in the palace. As expected, when the three princes of the great Xia dynasty walked over from the street, the geniuses quickly walked up to them and bowed to flatter them like slaves. Of course, most of them were licking the second prince Xia Qing and the third prince Xia Li. After all, these two were the sons of the empress and had a higher chance of becoming the emperor. As for Xia Feng, although this first prince was older, his mother was only a concubine and died early. Right now, he had no foundation to speak of in the imperial capital. Moreover, Xia Feng's personality was too weak. Even Xia Qing and Xia Li often called him by his name. They did not put him in their eyes at all. Of course, Xia Feng naturally paid no attention to all of this. He even maintained a warm smile on his face. When Sikong Hui returned to the city, Qiao Shuang was already his fiancée. The two most powerful ministers of Great Xia were already tied to him. Wouldn't the throne be within his reach? Empress? Her influence was indeed great, but she was still too soft-hearted. Otherwise, how could he, Xia Feng, continue to live in this world? Just you wait, it won't be long before that lord leave. Then, I will tell you who is the master of Great Xia. Haha. Long time no see, everyone. However, just as the three princes were being escorted by the crowd towards the Dreamcloud Immortal Tower, a hearty laughter suddenly rang out from the end of the street. He saw that Sikong Hui had already taken off his battle armor and was now wearing a set of blue robes. He really did look like an upstart in the imperial court. Beside him, Qiao Shuang's pretty face was indifferent. She wore a white dress and was extremely beautiful. Brother Sikong. Even Xia Cheng and Xia Li greeted the only son of Count Zhongyi, who had returned to the imperial court with outstanding military achievements, with a warm smile on their faces. Qiao Shuang and the others were unable to win him over. After all, her engagement with Xia Feng was personally set by Emperor Xia. However, Sikong Hui had been on a military expedition for 3 years. Even though they had some friendship with Xia Feng, as the nobles of Great Xia, they naturally knew about the rumors that had been circulating in the imperial capital recently. Gossip was a pastime for high officials and nobles no matter where they went. However, it seemed that the relationship between Sikong Hui and Xia Feng was not as stable as it seemed on the surface. Brother Sikong, long time no see. Xia Cheng extended his hand and took out a cosmos sack from his bosom. There is a peerless divine armor inside. I obtained it in a secret realm previously. I believe that only Brother Sikong is worthy of such a divine armor. Haha, second prince, you flatter me. Brother Sikong. Looking at the crowd surrounding Sikong Hui, Xia Feng only shook his head and smiled. His expression was still indifferent. The relationship between him and Sikong Hui was definitely not something that could be measured by a divine artifact. Back then, in order to obtain Sikong Hui's trust, Xia Feng had even put on a bitter show. How could a relationship that could be measured by a spiritual treasure? Big Brother Feng. Qiao Shuang walked to Xia Feng's side with a gentle smile on her face. However, this gentleness was overly polite. Suddenly, Xia Feng felt that the top of his head was itchy. Shuang, have you met Count Zhongyi? Of course, due to his trust in Sikong Hui, Xia Feng did not think too much about it. Instead, he followed the crowd and walked toward the Cloudy Dream Immortal Pavilion. No. Qiao Shuang was neither cold nor warm. This caused a trace of doubt to flash through Xia Feng's eyes. Why did Qiao Shuang's attitude toward him change so greatly after not seeing her for half a day? Or could it be that she was shy in front of so many people? Everyone entered the pavilion and took their seat. Sikong Hui found it difficult to refuse such great hospitality. He was pulled to a seat by the second prince and the third prince. Xia Feng did not have many friends to begin with. Now, in front of the two princes, no one dared to appear too close to him. Therefore, today's banquet was roughly divided into 2 tables. Xia Feng and Qiao Shuang sat at one table. The rest of the Sky Prides squeezed in beside the second prince and Sikong Hui. Shuang, what's wrong with you? Why do you look so pale? Xia Feng appeared to be extremely calm, but Qiao Shuang's expression was getting gloomier. Nothing. Degree. Could it be that she was in low spirits every few days? Shuang, why don't I pour you a cup of hot tea? Qiao Shuang sighed softly and turned to look at Sikong Hui. Big brother, Shuang, why don't you go over? As if he felt Qiao Shuang's gaze, Sikong Hui smiled apologetically and walked over with a few other Sky Prides following behind him. Brother Hui. At this moment, a scene that stunned Xia Feng happened. He saw that Qiao Shuang, who looked cold and preoccupied just now, suddenly had a charming smile on her beautiful face. What the f***ck? Although the development of the current situation had completely exceeded Xia Feng's memory of his previous life, at this moment, he could still vaguely feel a little uneasy. Although Qiao Shuang and Sikong Hui were both people that he trusted, the intimacy between the two of them at this moment was truly too blatant. Shuang, big brother. Sikong Hui sat down and picked up the wine on the table. I heard from the second prince that Jiang Yu's son-in-law is actually a demon? Shuang and I were not in the city a few days ago, so we did not see it with our own eyes. Xia Feng smiled bitterly, but Sikong Hui seemed to be lost in thought. When I was at the border, I also heard that there were traces of demons in the capital of the Great Zhou dynasty. They even killed the eldest princess of the Great Zhou dynasty and took away the Great Zhou dynasty's precious emperor vein, immortal gold. It is said that this gold can protect one's heart meridians and is full of spiritual energy. I really did not expect the western border to be so chaotic now. Emperor vein, immortal gold? Protect one's heart meridians? Xia Feng inexplicably looked in the direction of his chest. But soon, he smiled bitterly and shook his head. Am I too used to being a coward? I feel that everything is dangerous. There are countless immortal gold in this world. The one that the Lord gave me is an item from the upper realm. Although it has the word gold in it, how could it be related? Chapter 408. Manager, are there any seats left? Just as Xia Feng was smiling bitterly, a clear laughter came from not far away. But why does it feel so familiar? Xia Feng frowned slightly. The moment he turned his head to look, his face suddenly turned pale. At the entrance of the immortal tower, a white-robed figure was standing with his hands behind his back. Although there was no aura coming from him, the arrogance on his face was obvious. Ling Xiao. At this moment, Xia Feng was shocked. I'm sorry, young master. The entire Cloudy Dream Immortal Tower is booked today. Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes and turned his head to look coldly at the crowd. The moment he saw Xia Feng, he could not help but frown slightly. In the end, he did not stay any longer and left. At this moment, another white-robed figure walked over slowly and brushed past Ling Xiao. His face was covered with divine radiance, and his white robe was shining with divine light. There seemed to be divine shadows of dragons and elephants under his feet. There were also divine palaces floating in the sky above his head. It was indescribably mysterious and terrifying. The person who came was the real Ling Xiao. The one who came just now was just an illusion created by the overlapping shadows. Beat. The destined child is frightened and his Taoist heart is unstable. Congratulations to the host for plundering 300 luck points and 3,000 villain points. As expected, the destined child who was reborn knew him. Judging from the paleness of his face, it was likely that he knew some of his secrets. However, he did not know if the person he met was the original owner of his body or the reincarnated version of himself. Time was something that was said to be eternal and unchanging. However, Ling Xiao knew that some of the most powerful beings could cause the collapse of an era, the reversal of the sun and the moon, and even the reincarnation of living beings. The world was the board, and all living beings were the chess pieces. Anyone who was reborn would have a mission. Could it be that someone noticed me? Impossible. If so, they could just kill me directly. Why would they need to be reborn as a bastard? Was it a coincidence? Or was it a reaction from the heavenly Tao? Greetings. Just call me young master. Ling Xiao waved his hand, stopping the second prince and the third prince from kneeling on the ground. Then, he walked straight towards Xia Feng. Even now, the first prince still hadn't recovered from his daze. The first prince? The corners of Ling Xiao's lips curled up slightly. Under the shocked gazes of the imperial capital's prodigies, he ruthlessly slapped Xia Feng's face. Who dares? Xia Feng narrowed his eyes and raised his head, only to see that Ling Xiao was already in front of him. His body trembled all of a sudden. Dada, why are you in a daze? Ling Xiao's tone was calm as he sat in Xia Feng's seat. A hint of hesitation flashed in her eyes. She leaned over and whispered into Ling Xiao's ear. Sir, I saw a demon appear just now. True demon. No. It's the sky demon. But Ling Xiao did not hesitate at all. He raised his hand and slapped her again. I suspect that you are humiliating me. If there was a devil, how could I not feel it? This, Xia Feng was suddenly a little confused. That seemed to make sense. Did I see wrongly? Or did they just look alike? Otherwise, with this lord's strength, how could he not see through that demon's identity? No! Since he could hide from everyone in his previous life, he must have terrifying means. Although the Lord came from the upper realm, how could he be compared to the sky demon? That was the peerless demon that once caused chaos in the 9 heavens according to the sacred sect's divine master. But what the hell can I do? Chase after him? That demon can probably kill me with a wave of his hand. Ask the Lord to help? Wouldn't that be questioning the Lord's professional standards again? Damn. Suddenly, Xiaofeng felt that it was really hard to live. I heard that the Dragon Fortune City's prodigy gathering is today. Not bad. I am very gratified to see so many monsters in Great Xia. Ling Zhao's gaze swept across the entire restaurant. He realized that other than Xiaofeng, there was no one else with providence. He was a little disappointed. Originally, he wanted to come here and capture all the prodigies of Great Xia in one fell swoop. He did not expect that in the end, there was only one chive to be harvested. It was as if they were not full at all. Lord, call me young master. Ling Zhao's gaze was calm as he raised his wine cup and took a sip. The surrounding prodigies and sons of important officials were all silent. They did not even dare to let out a fart. He even dared to slap the first prince and did it so naturally. This person's identity, especially Sikong Hui, there was even a trace of astonishment in the depths of his eyes. Could it be that this person was the big shot that father had mentioned? However, although he had concealed his appearance and could not see his true appearance, he could vaguely feel that he was a young man. What did Xiaofeng call him? Lord? Could this person really be from the central border? Of course, with Sikong Hui's experience, he naturally could not think of such a profound level in the upper realm. However, seeing how humble Xiaofeng was now, this white-robed young man must have a great background. You guys can chat. Don't worry about me. Ling Zhao's voice was gentle, giving people a feeling of a spring breeze. The atmosphere in the restaurant gradually became lively. At this moment, Ling Zhao suddenly put down the wine cup in his hand, making a crisp sound. Instantly, the expressions on everyone's faces froze. Some of the more timid people were so frightened that they almost fainted on the spot. Young master, Xiaofeng's eyes narrowed slightly. He was also a little nervous. Just this identity alone was enough to cause the entire western border to fall into turmoil. Of course, with his temperament, he actually did not want this lord to stay in the Great Xia dynasty. He just wanted to live in seclusion and cultivate steadily. He did not need to care about anyone's mood. It was fast to rise to the top in one step, but it was not good for a man to be too fast. He had to be steady and steady. He had to strengthen his foundation. He had to be self-reliant. There's only wine and no singing and dancing here. It's really boring. Ling Zhao's eyes were clear and cold as he turned to look at Xiao Shuang beside him. You will do. Dance for everyone to liven things up. Arrogant. Too arrogant. Do you know who this person is? She is the granddaughter of the Great Xia dynasty's most powerful person, State Preceptor Qiao Yinli. Dance for everyone to liven things up? If this sentence were to spread out, it did not seem to be a big deal. After all, you even dared to slap the first prince. I'm sure State Preceptor Qiao does not care about you. Although the elites did not know Ling Zhao's true identity, they suddenly wanted to see Xiao Shuang, who was known as the most beautiful woman in the Great Xia dynasty alongside Xia Yanran, perform a dance. It would be best if it was the kind that touched the bottom of the legs, shook the head, squatted down, retracted the legs, bent over, touched the bottom, shook the hips, and shook the legs. It would be even better if she wore something cooler. The entire restaurant was silent. Beat. The chosen one is in a bad mood and his scalp is itching. Congratulations to the host for plundering 50 luck points and 500 villain points. However, to Ling Zhao's surprise, even though the system had already notified him, Xiaofeng's expression was still calm. On the surface, it seemed like he was not angry at all. I would like to call this person the most unscrupulous. Was he just in a bad mood? Did he really not care about his fiancée? Or did he think that Ling Zhao's request was reasonable? However, it did not matter. This way, your good brother would really want to take good care of his sister-in-law. This young master, Sikong Hui glanced at Xia Feng. When he saw that the latter was just sitting there calmly, a cold glint flashed across his eyes. Especially when he saw the humiliation on Qiao Shuang's face. He felt extremely angry. Is my Shuang a maid or a dancer? Dance for you? So what if you are from the central border of Xingzhou? Is there no law in this world? Can a dog from the central border stand on the head of the emperor? Why? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly and smiled playfully. You want to dance too? Chapter 409. Dance. The corner of Sikong Hui's eyes twitched. I'll dance your ass. But if he could dance a cha-cha dance with Qiao Shuang alone, it would be wonderful, right? Cha-cha. Haha, young master, perhaps you don't know my sister's identity? Ling Xiao was not angry. Instead, his expression became more and more playful. A good Go Xing would definitely have an upright and impulsive brother beside him. Otherwise, how could he have a reason to force him to show off his strength and slap his face to seek happiness? Unfortunately, originally, his brother was indeed quite upright. His sister-in-law had already sent herself to his door, but he still looked righteous. However, this sister-in-law was not that sister-in-law. No matter how close they were to each other and how close they were to each other, as long as they were human, they would eventually have desires. Moreover, from Qiao Shuang's memory, this Sikong Hui was humble when he was young. He had a gentle personality and was especially considerate. At first glance, one could tell that he was a proper bootlicker. Sister, I can't have you, but I will always wish you happiness. No. As long as you are happy, I will do anything. What? Someone dares to bully my sister? Don't be afraid. As long as I am here, even if the world humiliates you, I am willing to stand in front of you. Brother, you are good. But I really can't love you. Because I am already engaged to a prince, and you are just a general. What can you do? A bootlicker and a green tea? The hot water is a good match, but unfortunately, it is tasteless. I choose the ace of spades. But I don't know if that Go Zi can still keep his composure. What is your sister's identity? Ling Xiao seemed to be interested, but Xia Feng gave Sikong Hui a look. Brother, what are you doing? If this person is angry, Great Xia will be gone. But at this time, Sikong Hui turned a blind eye and said in a low voice, She is the fiancée of the first prince, the granddaughter of the state preceptor Qiao Yunli, and the sworn sister of Count Zhongyi's son, Sikong Hui. Damn! So awesome! At this time, the surrounding geniuses' faces instantly froze. Ling Zhao's identity was very mysterious and powerful. However, if Sikong Hui hadn't mentioned it, they wouldn't have realized that Qiao Shuang seemed to be quite powerful. Although the great Xia dynasty was ruled by the Xia emperor, the Qiao clan and the Sikong clan were equally powerful. Even the emperor didn't dare to offend them. But Qiao Shuang seemed to have connected the three great clans of the great Xia together. Are you done? Ling Xiao nodded and downed the wine in his glass. He turned to look at Xia Feng and said, Do you have a problem with me asking your fiancé to dance? To be able to dance for you is Shuang's honor, Feng Wushang's honor, and our great Xia's honor. I think even if Qiao Yunli knew, he would be deeply grateful to you. Xia Feng, who was originally not good with words, suddenly seemed to have become a completely different person. His witty words flowed like pearls, and he was impassioned. F***ck. How could I dare to have an opinion? I just want to live a peaceful life, cultivate diligently, and preserve my lowly life. I don't want to die young like I did in my previous life. As for Sikong Hui, of course I don't want to lose you. After all, we are brothers. But I don't want to die even more. How dare you challenge my authority? Even if your father is here, he will have to kneel down. You don't know what death is. Ling Xiao snorted coldly, and the aura of an immortal emperor spread out from his body. The entire dreamy cloud immortal tower trembled violently, and all the ancient clan geniuses knelt down on the ground. Even Sikong Hui felt a great force descend from the sky, and it forcefully crushed him onto the ground. Plop! Young master, please calm down. Especially the three princes of the great Xia dynasty, they hated Sikong Hui even more. However, their father had given a death order. Whoever dared to reveal His Excellency's identity would have their entire family wiped out. His entire family wiped out? Wouldn't that mean that their father would be wiped out as well? What a ruthless and cruel order. No wonder it was a death order. You, Xia Feng, I misjudged you. Sikong Hui prostrated himself on the ground, his eyes wide open. He didn't expect this young man to be an immortal emperor. But even so, what was even more unexpected was that the first prince that he had always respected, the first prince that he had a close relationship with, was actually such a heartless and gutless coward. Even if the person in front of him came from the central region and even came from the Saint sect, he was a man. Even if he couldn't protect his fiancée because of his strength, his attitude was simply shameful. No wonder Shuang was so depressed before. Poochie! With that thought, Sikong Hui spat out a mouthful of blood, and his aura instantly weakened. Beat! The destined child and brother have a rift in their hearts. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. At this time, even Ling Xiao looked at Sikong Hui in surprise. Did this guy take the wrong script? The destined child wasn't even excited, so why are you so excited? Who cares? Anyway, it's good enough that I can plunder luck points. Since ancient times there have been many licks. The ancients didn't lie to me. Young master, please calm down. Finally, Qiao Shuang's face was filled with bitterness and sadness. She stood up and walked in front of Sikong Hui, blocking Ling Xiao's gaze. I'll jump. Young master, please forgive my brother's impulse. Oh! Ling Xiao sneered. It's not impossible to forgive him. If you drink up this jar of wine, I'll spare his dog life. For Ling Xiao, it didn't matter whether Sikong Hui died or not. He was just an ant. What he wanted to do now was to humiliate Qiao Shuang. The more Xia Feng acted, the angrier Sikong Hui would be. In this way, the plot could proceed according to his plan. After all, when Xia Feng's best brother saw him as a devil with his own eyes, the world would not doubt him. In this world, what was the most terrifying thing? Of course, it was the human heart and those mouths that could talk anyway. Shuang don't. Sikong Hui held Qiao Shuang's hand. This scene fell into the eyes of the crowd, and they instantly became a little playful. Sure enough, the rumor was true. This Sikong Hui loved Qiao Shuang. Previously, they thought that this might be a rumor deliberately spread by someone when Sikong Hui returned to the imperial court. But now, looking at the man and woman in the building who went through life and death together and protected each other, they seemed to believe it. The rumor might not be false. At least now, it seemed that there was something wrong with this adulterous man and woman. Brother Hui, didn't Count Zhongyi tell you? This young master, you must not offend him. Otherwise, the consequences. It's fine, isn't it just drinking and dancing? Did you forget that Shuang is best at dancing? Although Qiao Shuang was comforting Sikong Hui, the humiliation in her beautiful eyes could not be concealed. Shuang Sikong Hui's eyes were blood-red. How could he not know that this big shot in front of him had a background that even his father was afraid of? But, at this time, he couldn't do anything alone. If he went against him, would he really have to pay the price of the entire Sikong clan? Alright, if brother cares about Shuang-er, don't make things difficult for Shuang-er. Shuang-er, you have suffered. It's okay, brother Hui. Anyway, you're back. I believe that Shuang-er will not be like before in the future. Besides, what kind of suffering is this? If Shuang-er can exchange for brother's life, it's worth it even if Shuang-er dies. Qiao Shuang smiled faintly and walked to Ling Zhao's side. She picked up the jar of strong wine and drank it directly. Beside her, Xia Feng frowned slightly. His eyes seemed to be gloomy. F***ck. You too. Do you really think I'm dead? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.